the putting together the strategic, the geopolitical, and the personal, it's important. In my opinion, chemistries matter, and we should leverage this connect of Vice President Vance with India for our advantage.
Certainly, chemistry matters, and that should be leveraged as far as this visit is concerned, is what Mr. Puri is saying. We'll also go across to Rahul Ahluwalia. In fact, we have these live visuals coming in from Palam Airport. Those are the visuals of J.D. Vance's aircraft. They're landing along with his family members. Of course, he's accompanied by family members as well as officials from Pentagon and State Department. A lot lined up as far as U.S. Vice President is concerned over the next 4 days. Mr. Ahluwalia, to you, of course, before we talk about trade and tariffs, US Vice President has personal connection to India through his wife Usha. There is this Indian heritage there. Do you think this Indian heritage or this Indian connection could influence, diplomatic engagements and public perception perhaps in both the countries?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely it would. It's also a little bit of a tricky subject, honestly, because a lot of President Trump's base is a little sort of anti-immigration, it's anti-foreign influence. So it's a tricky space to navigate, but given the fact that his vice president has this India Connect, it's absolutely, I think, a positive. But I think we should be careful to not overplay it because it could backfire as well in the public perception. I think in the private chemistry, as Puri Saab was mentioning, that private chemistry is very much important and very much matters. We should be careful in how we position it.
Right, of course, thank you, Rahul Ahluwalia. Just stay with us. We also have Gauri Dwivedi joining us. Gauri, we have visuals playing on our screen right now of the flight touching down here in India. J.D. Vance's first visit to India ever since he has, become the vice president. And of course, Usha Vance is visiting India for the first time as the second lady. She does, her family is from Andhra Pradesh. We've been talking about the India connection that Vance has. We've spoken about, his Indian wedding, the Indian food that he likes, and of course, will that play out during, this visit of the Vice President, particularly when it comes to talks in regard to deportation, visa issues, as well as, the issues that the Indians are facing at the moment?
Some of that should, I think, play out, Divya, simply because he's actually embraced his wife's identity openly, and Usha is a practicing Hindu. She also talks about her roots, about her parents coming in the 1970s to US to look for the ideal American dream, so to say. So to that effect, some of that will play out, and that also explains the time that the Vances are spending in Jaipur, because they want to explore the cultural, the historical side of India, as much as, of course, the diplomatic engagements which will take place in New Delhi today. So I think some of that will play out, whether it's in terms of the soft power, as I said, the cuisine and the other aspects, or the diplomatic fallout of what is happening in the US in the last couple of weeks, which is about, concerns related to deportation, visa denials, and of course, concerns amongst the legal immigrant community. Remember, illegal issue is something that India is on board with the US. So when the flight came, India accepted. They realized that if you do not enter a country legally, there are ramifications and repercussions. To that, New Delhi is completely aligned with Washington's view. It is the concerns related to students, the H-1B techies. That is where concerns have been mounting. And I think some of that is likely to be addressed. And, at the end of the day, one needs to realize that in diplomacy, personal rapport does trump institutional machinery. It does come much above institutional machinery, which will take its own due course in addressing some of these concerns. But a personal rapport between leaders does provide, the ideal bridges to address those concerns. And unless those concerns are aired and bridged, solutions sort of cannot be found, as I said, through the institutional machinery route, which could take much longer. So my sense is that some of these challenges that the Indian American community is facing, the challenges that the students are facing, facing is likely to come up. It's something that impacts one of the largest diaspora in the US and also one that contributes to the American economy and the American society in many ways. It's the highly educated ethnic group. It is the most diverse. It's also one that contributes the most in terms of taxes. So on all those parameters, Indian American community is contributing to the American economy. So some of these concerns are likely to come up. And I think this is, let's not forget, this is the second meeting between Vice President Vance and Prime Minister Modi. They met on the sidelines of the AI summit in Paris. And after that, they're meeting today. So as I said, some of that rapport they will bring to the table. And I think that could probably address some of these concerns on India's side.
Right, Gauri. So a lot of these concerns will be addressed, is what we are saying, when this meeting happens. But, when Prime Minister Modi meets J.D. Vance for the second time, we believe that the talks are also going to focus on the early finalization of the proposed India-US bilateral trade agreement as well.
Absolutely. That is likely to be at the top of the priority list in terms of thrashing out an early trade deal, simply because there is a huge opportunity and a window that lies right now for India to be able to make best possible use of. India proactively reached out to President Trump and said that they are willing to address American concerns related to some of the trade issues that the Trump administration has, and some give and take is possible. With that, the conversation steered further in terms of the trade talks that have advanced. Thorny issues on both sides are being looked at with an open mind to find solutions that will work for both sides. And now, with both parties coming in together, some sort of a forward movement on the trade talks is likely to happen. And the reason I say that is because Vice President Vance carries the same perception, worldview, thought and policy that President Trump has. So when he speaks, it is almost like an extension of President Trump's policy framework. Almost I use because, of course, the final say and the word lies with the president there. But when he speaks and he carries the same weightage and provides the same thought process on how America would like to thrash out trade issues. So my sense is that forward movement is likely to take place on a trade deal which could actually see light as early as maybe September. That's what many people are saying. Of course, the 90-day pause that India has right now, it is trying to utilize that to the best possible advantage to ensure that the trade volume doesn't get impacted. Remember, America is India's largest trading partner. There is a shared vision of it taking this trade partnership to sub $200 billion to about $500 billion in 5 years. And to reach there, both sides need to come to the table, negotiate a common framework for a bilateral trade deal. And I think some of that forward movement will take place with Vice President Vance's meeting and talks with Prime Minister Modi later today.
Right. Of course, let's just also go back to Rahul Ahluwalia. Of course, this really comes at a time when we're talking about, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump had made that announcement that, ambitious target of doubling bilateral trade to $500 billion, which would basically mean that India would import more gas and oil from the United States. And this really comes at a time when India is planning on, cutting down its tariffs when it comes to the US goods. And of course, we have seen some cuts already. So how do you see this playing out in connection with this particular trip and the significance of this, given the fact that this really comes at a time when, this is part of that ongoing diplomatic efforts in order to finalize that trade agreement between the two countries?
Very significant, as some of the people have already mentioned. The personal connect might end up becoming very important, because it's very clear that all of the tariff movements that the US has been taking have not been based on some kind of thought out policy framework. It's being driven purely by President Trump's dislike of a trade deficit and embrace of tariffs as an instrument. So it very much depends on convincing the senior leadership that India is a strategic ally. India is a country that...
Let's just look at the live shots playing out on our screen at the moment of that flight from the United States of America, that flight that has carried the US Vice President, Usha Vance as well, the Second Lady and their 3 children. Of course, they also have officials from the Pentagon as well as the State Department, joining us, accompanying them on this 4-day visit. Of course, as they land, they are planning to go to Akshardham, the temple here in the national capital. They also have some shopping on the agenda before they start meeting with the officials here from the Indian side. And of course, that very important and crucial meeting that's going to be taking place between J.D. Vance and, of course, Prime Minister Modi. There are a lot of other people who are going to be there during that meeting that's going to be taking place at 6:30 p.m. Before that dinner that's going to be hosted for the family of J.D. Vance by Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Ahluwalia, take us through who all are expected to be there during that meeting of the Vice President of the United States and the Prime Minister of India.
I would expect all of our senior leadership to be there. I would expect certainly the Commerce Minister, Home Minister, the entire cabinet. Because again, like I said, it's hard to overstate the significance of this meeting and the trade deal that is on the anvil. The US is the biggest trading partner that India has. Just one example, right? Last time when President Trump was in power, he placed tariffs on China, and India's largest smartphone imports today smartphone exports today exist only because of that move. Apple is exporting more than $20 billion worth of smartphones from India today because of that one move, right? So that just gives you an example of the number of jobs, the GDP growth, the export growth that is at stake here. So I would expect that the entire cabinet almost would be there, and they would be trying to ensure that we can strike this deal with the US, because it's very, very important for us.
क्यों बोल दो? Thank you to both the guests, Ahluwalia as well as Manjeet Puri. Of course, we will keep coming back to you for expert analysis on this visit. Let me go back to Gauri. Gauri, we are talking about trade war, trade tensions globally and India included. So in the context of US-China trade tensions, how do you think India's role as a strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific region really evolve? And what are the expectations from both sides?
So that's a very important question that you raised, Radhika, that how will the bilateral relationship of US and India mature and evolve from here, given the fact that China continues to remain a concern and a challenge. Now, the two countries are together part of a Quad alliance. The Quad will have a Heads of Summit meeting later this year in India. President Trump will be traveling along with, of course, leaders from Japan and Australia. Australia is set for an election. So those leaders will be in India to decide what should be the future outlook roadmap for Quad, and the vision really as to what should it be standing for in terms of addressing the concerns and challenges that China is posing for the Indo-Pacific, where all these other countries stand to get impacted. So that's one aspect of it, and some of that is likely to come up in these conversations again between Vice President Vance and Prime Minister Modi. Whether it's in passing or in detail remains to be seen, but is likely to mention, simply because both US and India are working towards and there's been a convergence of their strategic goals and challenges in the last couple of years. Second important aspect is that there is now a trade war between US and China that's taking place. Tariffs on both sides have been increased. There is no 90-day pause for China, which means that tariffs remain at 245% for Chinese goods to enter America. It essentially means that they can't enter, which means that this allows countries like India a golden opportunity to probably become a bigger player in global supply chains. It will have an impact in specific sectors more than others, whether it's, let's say, textiles, semiconductors, areas where Indian supply chain is probably best primed to make use of this possibility that exists right now. No one can say how long the US-China trade war will continue, whether there'll be some thaw, some negotiation, but till that happens, that window to best exploit the global trade tensions exists right now for India. And I think that's what the Indian policymakers are also working towards, which is to finalize some sort of a trade agreement by making use of these trade tensions. China is the world's second largest economy. So when these tariffs have been put in place, they really impact the economy of China. But at the same time, opens up the global supply chain for possible other options. China plus one that we've been saying for the last couple of years. I think that window opens up for India. It has opened up ever since the 90-day pause. And I think which is why policymakers have been rushing to to sort of work around the concerns on both sides to at least finalize first draft of a trade pact that will be acceptable to both sides, addressing most of their concerns. So to that effect, China is important, and China will figure both on the trade side as well as the geopolitical side of it. How much of that will lead to takeaways in today's meeting remains to be seen, but one never must lose sight of the fact that J.D. Vance is a vice president that US hasn't seen in the last decades or so, simply because he not only speaks his mind, his worldview is an extension of President Trump. So when he speaks, he carries the same thought, the same vision, and which is why these conversations, these negotiations become that much more progressive and forward-looking.
Right, Gauri, visuals on our screen of the red carpet that's been rolled out, in fact, for the family, the US vice presidential family. And of course, there are also Indian dance performances that are taking place at the runway. This is the Palam Technical Area, the Palam Technical Airport in the national capital. And there you can see the plane has landed, and it's just minutes from now, in fact, that we will see the second family of the United States coming out of that plane. Of course, the first visit of the second lady ever since her husband, J.D. Vance, became the vice president of the United States. And of course, we're talking about the Indian roots. Of course, we do know that he does like Indian food, and particularly he likes paneer as well as chanas, chickpeas and rice. That's his favorite. We also have Tanushka joining us from right outside. Tanushka, take us through the reception that's been planned. We see some Indian dance performances that are taking place as well in order to welcome the second family of the United States.
Precisely, Divya. So the Vance's vice president, J.D. Vance, along with his family, wife Usha Vance, have touched base upon Palam Airport in New Delhi. So they have arrived at the capital, and they're currently still inside the Palam Airport. We're waiting outside for them. Their convoy will any moment at this point come out and, leave towards Akshardham Temple. This is the first spot that they plan on visiting on their program and agenda. And of course, this visit is very important, as we've already been stating, from the Quad Alliance to joint military deals. India and US are looking forward to working together and in sync at many platforms and forums with respect to India also hosting the Quad later this year, which will also be very crucial. So these are some major points of discussion that will come up today in the evening when the vice president will be meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this very important meeting that will also be, also have leaders and senior ministers from the Pentagon present there as well. And this meeting will not just have talks of trade and tariff, that is, but obvious, the India and US bilateral trade agreement that is...
Tanushka, just hold that thought. There we can see Usha Vance and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, in that dark suit, and Usha Vance in that red dress that has just gotten off that flight. And there we can see her pulling up that white jacket while she's meeting with the Indian officials here. Of course, those are live visuals coming to you from the Palam Technical Airport. That's here right, in the national capital.
The ceremonial welcome is what we are witnessing at this point. All important leaders will be welcoming, in fact, are welcoming the US Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife. Of course, those are the visuals of them landing at the Palam Technical Area Airport. Of course, it is a packed visit as far as the leader is concerned, a ceremonial welcome for the US Vice President. He will be meeting Prime Minister Modi later this evening at 6:30 p.m. As we stay on with the visuals of J.D. Vance landing at the Palam Technical Area at the airport there. Let's go straight to Gauri once again. Gauri, of course, these are important visuals there. J.D. Vance landing in Delhi. 4 days of action-packed program as far as J.D. Vance is concerned. Prime Minister Modi meeting happening 6:30 today, and then, of course, visit to Jaipur. But, what I wanted to ask is, what role does this cultural engagement, visits to historical sites, Jaipur, Agra, really play in strengthening bilateral ties beyond our formal diplomatic channels? If you could take us through that, even as ceremonial welcome is happening at this point, as far as J.D. Vance is concerned, we can see the salute, the gun salute happening. J.D. Vance there at the podium, at the airport. Those are the visuals there of J.D. Vance, who was just landed at the Palam Technical Area. In fact, a ceremonial welcome is what is being witnessed at this point. Gauri, over to you.
Indeed, the ceremonial welcome is taking place right now. India has rolled the red carpet for the Vice President, the first US Vice President to visit India in 13 years. Speaks volumes about Kamala Harris. That's what a lot of Republicans have said. Speaks volumes about J.D. Vance's predecessor, who chose to not come to India. Having said that, this visit, one also saw a senior minister of Prime Minister Modi's cabinet welcoming J.D. Vance at the Palam airport. I think that was Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav who welcomed him, senior minister in Prime Minister Modi's cabinet. And from here on, of course, there will be some engagements and then there will also be an important meeting between Prime Minister Modi and J.D. Vance. It's been hailed and termed as a visit that is semi-private. That's what a lot of people have mentioned this, simply because the events that will take place in Jaipur and Agra, which is a large part of his itinerary, are done that are by the US administration and not by the Indian government. So to that extent, there is a certain amount of semi-privateness to this visit that is taking place. But it's a 4-day visit taking place of the Vice President, first in 13 years, so early in Donald Trump's administration, at a time when there are both concerns and opportunities as far as the India-US relationship is concerned. And that really lays the groundwork in terms of what all can be achieved from this. As I said, the semi-private aspect of it means that there'll be a lot of focus on the second lady's cultural heritage, her identity. Usha Vance is of Indian origin, a practicing Hindu, and she's talked a lot about her origin, about her parents, about the values that she's been brought up with. Some of that, of course, has played out and will play out in the visit that one is going to see, because that is the reason why so much time is being spent in understanding India, which is why Jaipur and Agra are important destinations and stops for the Vances. They will be spending a fair bit of time in Jaipur and also, of course, seeing the Taj Mahal in Agra. Of course, the diplomatic engagement happens today when there are 5 members senior members who are accompanying Vice President Vance today, and that includes National Security Advisor, senior members and officials from the Pentagon and the State Department. So some of those meetings that will take place today will focus on defense. It will focus on trade and technology tie-ups, and of course also making sure that and exploring possibilities of greater military purchases from India.
J.D. Vance receiving that ceremonial welcome, and of course he was received by Ashwini Vaishnav, the Railways Minister there, who is now standing with Usha Vance in that red dress and the white jacket. Usha Vance, the second lady here on her first official trip. Of course, this is a personal and a professional trip, but this really comes in the backdrop of the reciprocal tariffs that we are now seeing a pause, in fact, when it comes to India along with other countries. But of course, the purpose of this visit, of course, is also for the overall trajectory of the ties between the two countries, and really basically what all is on the agenda includes a visit to the Akshardam Temple today, a little shopping visit as well before meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and of course after that family is going to be going to Jaipur, and they will be visiting the Amer Fort tomorrow. They will be received by the Chief Minister of the state of Rajasthan at the airport tonight. And of course, from there, they will also be going to Agra to visit the Taj Mahal.
Vice President's engagements with Indian culture heritage influence perception and soft power dynamics between two nations. All that remains to be seen. But for now, we'll slip into a short break. More updates coming up on the other side.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
Well, you are watching NDTV. Our big focus remains the US Vice President's India touchdown. As you know, J.D. Vance and his family have arrived in New Delhi. The US Vice President, J.D. Vance, has landed in Delhi along with his wife, Usha Chilukuri, and their 3 children. As you can see in these live visuals we are bringing you from the Palam airport. A delegation of US government officials, which includes the US National Security Council Senior Director for South and Central Asia, Ricky Gill, is also accompanying J.D. Vance. As you can see, the family is now going to be heading towards the action-packed agenda for the day. Mr. Vance was given an official guard of honor at the airport just a few moments ago and is due to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is expected to be accompanied by members of his cabinet. This evening, in fact, they will be having dinner together at his residence this evening too. Meanwhile, officials are hoping that any substantive announcements would be made after the meeting with our Prime Minister, including the formal launch of the Trust, which is a transforming relationship utilizing strategic technology partnership, renamed from the earlier initiative on critical and emerging technologies with the previous Biden administration. On home ground, meanwhile, ahead of the talks between the US Vice President J.D. Vance and Narendra Modi, the Congress has asked if the Prime Minister would convey India's concerns on the manner in which Indian citizens were being deported and the complete destruction of the multilateral rules-based trading system anchored in the World Trade Organization. As you can see, live visuals coming in from the Palam airport, where the US Vice President is being received with a warm welcome. He has landed in Delhi along with his wife, Usha Chilukuri, and their 3 children, as well as a delegation of US government officials. Just a few moments ago, Mr. Vance was given an official guard of honor at the airport. In fact, the agenda this time over his almost 30-hour trip is going to be flagging tariffs. Rejection of visas to genuine students is likely to come up. Also, the slow pace of tech sharing is likely to feature in the talks between J.D. Vance and Prime Minister Modi today as well. As you can see in the visuals coming in, the US Vice President is accompanied by his Indian origin wife Usha and their 3 children. In fact, Mr. Vance's maiden visit to India comes after US President Donald Trump imposed and then paused, as you know, a sweeping tariff regime against nearly 60 countries, including India. New Delhi and Washington are now holding negotiations to seal a bilateral trade agreement that is expected to address a variety of issues, including tariff and market access. Trade negotiators of both sides are set to kick off the second round of virtual talks this week, and they will lead to a physical meeting in May. In terms of, the big issues that have been coming up lately since Trump has entered office for the second time, rejection of visas to Indian students, that has been a huge issue, even though it's US's domestic matter. India is expected to still flag it. This is what our sources have informed us. The matter of legal mobility of students and professionals will also be discussed, as it was when Prime Minister Modi met Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. earlier this year in February. In fact, the issue of technology sharing, which is integral to India's strategic partnership with the US, is likely to feature in the talks between the US Vice President and our Prime Minister this evening too. The India-US initiative on critical and emerging technology had met back in January. That was during Joe Biden's tenure. Now, the ISAT is co-chaired by the National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, and his US counterpart, Michael Waltz, who replaced Jake Sullivan. So lots of movement expected on that front as well. Gauri Dwivedi has been tracking the latest for us. Before we get in a word from her, let's actually go across to Ambassador Arun Kesing, who joins us on the broadcast at the moment. He's the former ambassador of India to the United States from 2015 to the 31st of August. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us. After 12 years, J.D. Vance says a US vice president is in India. He has just touched down under the US tariff shadow. What are your first thoughts? What are your first expectations from this touchdown?
So I think his visit signals the continued high-level engagement between the two countries. If you recall, the Indian Prime Minister was the fourth foreign leader invited by President Trump to visit in February. And before that, he had invited only the Israeli Prime Minister, the King of Jordan, and the Japanese Prime Minister. Also, at the inauguration of President Trump, the Indian Foreign Minister was among the Quad foreign ministers that had been invited. The first multilateral meeting that the new Secretary of State did was of the Quad. And the first bilateral meeting he had was with the Indian Foreign Minister. So this is a signal that high-level attention to the issue continues, high-level engagement continues. Beyond that, of course, they will look at the issues in the relationship, how to advance cooperation. Now, when President Trump and Prime Minister Modi met, they had framed the relationship as a compact for the 21st century. And the compact was elaborated as a catalyzing opportunity for military partnership, accelerated commerce and technology. And the technology initiative further was described as trust, transforming the relationship utilizing strategic technologies. So I think these are the areas that would come under focus. Clearly, as you mentioned, trade has been an important area for discussion. President Trump has earlier described India as tariff king, criticized India, had threatened reciprocal, what he called reciprocal, but actually it was high tariffs against India. Now that's been suspended for 90 days.
Right.
But the two sides have been in very, very serious discussions on working out a multi-sectoral free trade agreement.
Right. Also, sir,
the Indian Commerce Minister was...
Certain reports are stating that J.D. Vance is going to be pressing India on US defense purchases. Do you see this as a negotiation tactic linked to tariff relief or a broader strategic ask?
So this is nothing new. I mean, since 2008, since we did the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement with the US, which started the process of US allowing high-level technology releases for India, successive US administrations have tried to persuade India that when we are looking at defense purchases, the US should be among the countries that we should look at. And other partners do it. France does it, Russia does it, Israel does it, so every country does it. But eventually, India evaluates each platform based on its merits, the technology, the pricing, what are India's specific needs. And India has over time bought from all its partners, from France, from US, from Russia, from Israel. So I think one can expect that J.D. Vance will certainly try to highlight that increased defense cooperation, which was reflected in the joint statement in February. Some of the newer platforms that the US is ready to offer, such as Javelin, the Striker, are things that India could look at. Now, consolidating a strategic partnership between two countries certainly also involves defense purchases, military exercises, defense technology partnership. And I think what is important is that the US has also signaled that is ready to do high-level defense technology partnership with India. In the Biden administration, they had authorized transfer of technology for the GE414 engine, 80% technology transfer. And the US has said that this level of technology transfer they have not authorized to any of their partners, including NATO partners. They've also started the framework called IndoSEX, India-US Defense Acceleration Ecosystem, which is bringing together startups in defense technologies between the two countries for co-development of technology. Right. And following the initiative on critical and emerging technologies in 2023, US Space Force has placed order on 2 Indian companies for supplies to them. So it's just a reciprocal relationship. And as senior Indian officials have pointed out, in the last 5 years, 50% of our defense exports have been through the global value chain of US companies. So again, it's something that works on both sides, and one can expect that among the items on J.D. Vance's agenda would be not just defense purchases, energy purchases, but also high-level technology partnerships.
Also, sir, if you were still at the helm in Washington, what would be your key advice to New Delhi right now? Engage, recalibrate, or resist?
I would hesitate to give advice to anyone. But my own personal assessment would be that, it's not a question of hesitating or resisting. find the new opportunity. Because what is happening is that there is a reordering of supply chains. In the phase of globalization of trade and production that took place since 1990, once the World Trade Organization was established, India gained in services sector, but in manufacturing, China sucked away global manufacturing. Today, China accounts for 80% of global GDP, but 32% of global manufacturing. And they did that through subsidies, they did that through forced technology transfers, and India lost out in manufacturing. So now that there is a major reordering of global supply chains happening, India has to seize this opportunity to see what it can do to also bring manufacturing to India, because services in India have certainly contributed a lot, including in enhancing incomes, including in more exports. But it is the manufacturing sector that generates jobs on a much larger scale than services. Yeah. So you need to expand the manufacturing sector. So I think the aim, as I see it from India, the effort from India is to use this moment, because you cannot wish away the moments that are there. We are faced with the facts as they are. But then they use this moment to see how we can utilize it for enhancing opportunities for India.
Sir, do stay on with us. Really appreciate your views so far. My colleague Gauri Dwivedi joins us from Ground Zero with a quick update at the moment. Gauri, JD Vance, as we know, is accompanied by the NSE Director, Ricky Gill. But it's noteworthy that so far, Trump has not named an ambassador to India, nor has Mr. Rubio appointed an assistant secretary for the region. And now JD Vance has just touched down with his family.
I think those appointments probably do take their own time, and there's a certain process there, Parmeshwar. But of course, yes, given how important India is, that one is hoping that some of these key appointments are put in place sooner than later. Mr. Vance, who's touched down in India, the second family is here on their very first visit. There's a lot of expectation and hope on several of these parameters, some of which, of course, Ambassador Arun is pointing out, particularly around the trade aspect and the opportunity that lies ahead for India. How much of that will actually culminate in actual talks today and lead to deliverables remains to be seen. But one must point out that Mr. Vance speaks with a certain clarity of thought, because it is aligned with the President's vision for an America First vision that he mentions again. And also, of course, Mr. Vance comes at a time when some of these negotiations have moved ahead. And, there are times when it's always important to put a certain premium on chemistry over institutional machinery. And one would hope that that is what would translate here as well, when some of those difficult trade negotiations do advance to a stage where India is able to lock a deal. Locking a deal in an uncertain trade scenario like right now would actually be a huge positive for us, given that the 90-day pause is, of course, only a certain window of opportunity that exists. But my sense is that trade will be, but not the only thing that is likely to dominate these conversations and talks that will take place between Vice President and Prime Minister Modi later in the evening.
Right. Also, Gauri, how do the optics of the cultural visits, the family presence, lavish itineraries stack up against the substantive diplomatic agenda?
Yes, it's largely, in fact, it's even been said by the External Affairs Ministry that it's a semi-private visit, simply because a large part of the itinerary does involve outside engagement, not diplomatic engagements. He's going to be in Jaipur from today evening itself. He's going to spend a fair bit of time in Jaipur, then Agra. So he's wanting to also ensure that his family, his kids do understand the identity and the ethnicity of their mother, and something that Usha Vance has embraced openly, something that the Vice President speaks about more than once, and is also his soft power at display, isn't it, Parmeshwar? That you are wanting to, of course, send the right messaging, send the right perception at a time when the Indian-American community is feeling in the US that odds are stacking up against them, especially for the legal immigrants. Illegal immigrants, we are all on the same page. In New Delhi has time and again said that they are aligned with the Washington on the illegal illegal immigrant aspect of concerns and challenges, but the legal immigrants, the students, the H-1Bs, the techies who are there, those concerns, those fears, I think some of them is what they are trying to address through the right optics. How much of that happens remains to be seen, because those conversations, of course, are likely to also feature in the discussion between the two leaders later in the evening.
Right, Gauri. Meanwhile, let's also talk a little about the mood in South Bloc. Are Indian officials seeing this as a window of opportunity or a preview of more transactional diplomacy under Trump 2.0?
I think that is something that I think that change happened ever since President Trump won the mandate last year. And I think South Bloc has geared up to now see how best their vision, their outcomes can actually be delivered. But one also needs to keep in mind that this meeting takes place after a very successful extradition of Tawur Rana. That happened after President Trump and Prime Minister Modi met in Washington in February. And since then, extradition of Tawur Rana is a huge positive for India in its war against terror, ensuring that it provides some closure to 26/11 victims. And remember, that also is likely to be a part of what those discussions will be today. Of course, trade will be there. Of course, immigration will be there. But joint challenges, terrorism being one of them, is likely to feature as well. Because as I said, just months after that meeting, the final extradition did happen, and Tawur Rana will face the law of the land here. So that will also be an important aspect of how Prime Minister Modi and Vice President Vance look to now try and ensure that their common goals, common concerns, common priorities get addressed, and the US-India relationship is strengthened further.
Right, Gauri, thanks so much for joining us with that update. Do stay on with us as I rope in former Ambassador Mr. Singh, who's with us on the broadcast as well. So, in terms of interpreting J.D. Vance's visit then in the context of Donald Trump's paused tariff regime, would you say it's a diplomatic olive branch or a soft warning shot from Washington?
Well, I think it's neither. I think it's just, as I mentioned, that while the negotiations continue on trade, and those will be difficult negotiations, but the important thing is that both sides, as you can see, have made a very determined effort to engage in serious, substantive negotiations to try and get at least the first tranche of a multi-sectoral free trade agreement before the end of the year. So that's the important thing. And I think what J.D. Vance's visit signals is that while the trade aspect is being discussed, negotiated, where there could be differences, despite the effort being made, there is a broad overall relationship, which is looking at technology partnerships, which is looking at the people-to-people dimension of the relationship, which is looking at military partnership, which is looking at strategic convergence, global and regional issues that we need to discuss. So there is an overall aspect to the relationship. And through the Vance visit, there is a signal that high-level engagement, not just at functional levels, not just at ministerial levels, but the high-level engagement for the visit continues. So I would interpret it as that. And again, aside from his meetings in Delhi today, he's visiting other cities, which again, they're trying to show that there is a wider cultural people-to-people dimension to the relationship. And this has been done in the past when President Trump had come in 2020. Before coming to Delhi, he had visited Ahmedabad. When our Prime Minister has gone to the US, he's gone to different cities. He's gone to Houston, he's gone to the West Coast. So he's visited different cities at that time. So this is very much a part of signaling there is a broader dimension to the relationship, and every aspect must be consolidated.
Right. And sir, then how significant would you say the inclusion of Usha Vance and the entire family, the family-heavy itinerary is? Would you argue that Washington is using personal diplomacy to temper a tougher economic agenda?
No, I don't think we should overinterpret, but I would certainly say that, very often families have accompanied the leaders during visits.
All right.
So this is not a new thing. But here, I think the additional dimension is certainly that his wife is of Indian origin, so that enhances a sense of the link there is. And if you saw his children who came down the stairs from the aircraft were wearing Indian dress. So again, that remains a part of the signal that there is a strong cultural link and bond involving also the Vance family. So, but again, this is something that has been done in the past. It is very much part of diplomatic engagements.
Right. So from Delhi's perspective then, sir, how exactly should India navigate this moment, play for time, negotiate hard, or offer selective concessions to actually ease the trade pressure?
Look, in any negotiations, everybody has to make some concessions. So there may be some concessions on the Indian side, but there will be expectations from India for more opportunity in the US. Because again, if you recall, many countries in the past, Europe after the Second World War, Japan, South Korea at one stage, even China after it joined the WTO, have gained in economic terms by getting enhanced market access to the US. So it is not just a question of India maybe making some concessions in areas that may be of export interest to the US, but how does India gain enhanced market access in the US? How does India leverage additional technology partnerships with the US so that it benefits the Indian economy and benefits the Indian people at large? So I think that would really be the consistent effort that is being made here.
Well, sir, we'll be keeping a very close eye on all the developments. Thank you so much, as always, for making time for us and joining us on NDTV. Really appreciate your views. Also with us at the moment, Gauri Dwivedi, who's been tracking all the latest developments, and joining us from the Palam Technical Area Airport is Tanushka Datta. Tanushka, Prime Minister Modi will be hosting JD Vance in a few hours in Delhi under US tariff shadow. How is India framing this rare vice presidential visit? Is it being framed as a symbolic gesture or serious strategic engagement? Take our viewers through the latest developments.
Right, definitely, strategic and a symbolic move as well for with respect to India and US ties. This is definitely crucial with US Vice President JD Vance's first official visit to the country along with his entire family. The fact that his wife has also accompanied him, Usha Vance, and their children as well, adds a personal touch to this visit as well. It's also sort of a personal homecoming, but of course focusing on the major aspects that this meeting, important meeting in the evening to happen with Prime Minister Narendra Modi is, will lead on across trade, tariff, tech, major things on the agenda. This is not just a usual handshake tour that is on the cards here, but major discussions to happen, especially with respect to the India-US bilateral trade agreement as well. India and US are both looking to scale this agreement in trade up to $500 billion, which is double of what it is currently right now. Apart from trade, of course, from the Quad Alliance to joint military drills as well and tech investments, all of this, India and the US are looking forward to work together in sync. Remember, India later this year is going to host the Quad Summit this year, which is also going to be very crucial. So on the cards of this meeting today, all of these subjects are at play here. The US-India immigration as well is a major concern, and the fact that, Usha Vance is in the country, she is the daughter of South Indian immigrants, also puts that into tandem here in some sort of a way. On their schedule, what we can expect is that after moving out of the Palam airport in a couple of hours, the Vances will move on to the Akshardham Temple and pay their visits there, after which they will also go around to some Indian handicraft store doing the usual touristy stuff. In the evening, there is this, of course, important meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the senior ministers of the Indian government, and 5 senior ministers from the Pentagon as well. After which, Prime Minister Modi will be hosting the Vances for dinner, and thereafter, in the days forward, remember, this is a 4-day diplomatic visit, wherein the Vances will also move on to Jaipur and Agra, doing the usual touristy things, visiting the famous Taj Mahal, and a lot more lined up at Jaipur. Back to you.
Tanushka, as always, thanks so much for joining us with that quick update. Gauri Dwivedi is also live with us at the moment. Gauri, are there any concrete deliverables being hinted at, especially around the Trust Tech partnership or Quad coordination?
It will be tough to talk in terms of concrete deliverables, because this is also, as I said, Parmeshwar, something we need to be very conscious of is that the External Affairs Minister pointed it out as a semi-private event, which means that a lot of engagements outside the diplomatic engagements are set to take place, barring today when, of course, there will be 2 important meetings. One, Prime Minister Modi holding a discussion with Vice President Vance, and along with that, there will also be one, expected to be one, where the officials are likely to hold some discussions. Could this fructify into deliverables is really $1 million question. But what one can definitely say is forward movement on some of those difficult conversations is expected. And that's not because it is Vice President joining these conversations. It's because it's Vice President Vance joining these conversations. A man who's known to be saying things which may even be unpleasant to American allies. So to that effect, when he speaks, he's essentially speaking about Donald Trump's policy, vision and roadmap and how he envisages a certain relationship or a certain issue. So to that extent, when Vice President Vance will hold these meetings and discuss, I think that is when some forward movement could take place. But it will be difficult to really expect a proper or a concrete deliverable that may take place, because some of these are very conversations that may require more than just a single meeting, whether it's tech, whether it's trade, whether it's immigration, whether it's even technology tie-ups, or the fact that, US wants greater military purchases from India. That also is a conversation and a dialogue that will stretch over more than just one meeting. So I sense, my sense is that one may not expect a deliverable today, but what one can definitely expect is a forward movement on all these tricky conversations. And that, of course, could be the highlight and set the stage for maybe a heads of state meeting that, of course, is going to take place later this year at the Quad, or maybe sooner than that. Who knows?
Meanwhile, Gauri, does the absence of a formal US ambassador to India actually affect the optics or tone of this visit?
I don't think so, because even the last one, when he was set, in fact, the last one was also appointed, if my memory serves me right, 2 years after the administration had already completed its tenure. But one must also remember that the fact that there is engagement and links happening at the highest level between the leaders, between the heads of state. So to that extent, not having an envoy here doesn't hamper or hinder the progress of a relationship. Maybe at a ground level, it could probably at best delay, given the fact that the institutional machinery may take longer to address some of the concerns that are more localized in nature. But the fact that President Trump and Prime Minister Modi have a certain rapport, have a certain bonhomie, which has also translated into action. As I said, when they met in February 13, after that, so quickly one saw the extradition of Tahir Rana. That has to do with personal bonhomie and rapport between the two leaders. And that always takes precedence over any institutional mechanism that takes its own sweet time to function and move ahead. So to that extent, the setup here in India for the US is large, elaborate. The ambassador having here is, of course, desirable. But is it a necessary and a sufficient condition for the relationship to move ahead? The answer to that is no.
Right. And as we wrap, Gauri, Mr. Vance is expected to push for US defense sales. You briefly touched upon this as well. How central is this to this visit? And take us through how India is responding. Are there indications of specific asks or offers?
I think this will be an important aspect of what he would like as the deliverables from America's point of view, from the Vice President's point of view. So to that extent, it will feature prominently. And those are discussions that India and US have been having about greater military purchases. India is one of the largest military spenders in the world. So, of course, India's military purchases are something that all major nations want to be part of. So to that extent, a US Vice President would want a larger slice of India's military purchases. And it also ties in well with the America First, manufacturing in America sort of a theme that they've been passionately putting forward. So yes, it will feature prominently. But again, can one expect a proper deliverable out of today? Is anybody's guess.
Right, well, we'll be keeping a close eye on all the developments with you, Gauri. Thanks so much for joining us with the details. India is looking to flag tariffs, rejection of visas to genuine students, and the slow pace of tech sharing as the US Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to hold talks with Prime Minister Modi during this 4-day visit starting today. Lots lined up for J.D. Vance and his family. We'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Slipping into a very quick break for now. Back in a moment.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
have been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion.
Welcome back. Well, the former Karnataka Director General of Police, Om Prakash, was found dead with stab wounds at his residence in Bengaluru on Sunday. Police now suspect that he was murdered as a sharp weapon was probably used to attack him, and detained his wife and daughter for questioning in this matter. According to preliminary information, Mr. Om Prakash's wife is accused in this alleged murder. Stab injuries were found on Mr. Om Prakash's stomach and neck. This is what sources have informed NDTV, adding that police will decide to arrest his wife and daughter after questioning. The cops have categorically said that the couple fought in the afternoon and the wife threw chili powder and tied up the former DGP. The police has further added that the ex-DGP was stabbed with 2 knives, also further stating that a glass bottle was used in this attack. Just listen in to what Karnataka's Home Minister had to say regarding this gruesome attack, followed by my colleague Nihal Kidwai's report.
Prakash has been murdered, they say by his own wife, but the investigation is on. Until and unless we report, the investigation report, we cannot conclude anything. The investigation is on. We are looking at various aspects. Once the report is with us, then we can say how the murder is being done and so on.
This is the residence of former DGP of Karnataka, Om Prakash. It has been sealed, as you can see, and this is the ground floor where his body was found in the pool of blood. His wife was here at the time of crime and his daughter as well. But what we have come to know, his daughter was on the other floors of the house, as this is a 3-story building, and this building is in one of the most posh localities of Bengaluru city. This is HSR layout. Most of the police officials, senior officials you can say, they stay here only. Not only IPS but IS officers as well. So here his body was found in the pool of blood, and it is alleged that his wife is the main suspect, and it is also alleged that she only stabbed him multiple times. More than a dozen wounds have been found, what we have come to know, though officially it is not confirmed, and he died because of loss of blood. There was a discord between the wife and the husband. It was going on for a long time over money as well as property disputes. What we have come to know that recently he had transferred one of his properties in one of his siblings' name. This triggered the present clash that claimed his life. It seems the wife did not like it, and there was a heated argument here on the ground floor when they were having lunch, and after that it is alleged that she only stabbed him multiple times, and he succumbed to his injuries. When he was taken to the hospital, there he was declared brought dead. His body, the post-mortem is still to happen. Only after that police will be in a position to say that how many wounds are there and other details.
My colleague Deepak Bopanna has also been tracking the finer developments for us. He joins us live at the moment. Deepak, absolutely gruesome details emerging. What's the latest?
Well, definitely gruesome to say the least here. The police, of course, right now in the process of trying to, make the first arrest. We are told that in the next couple of hours, they officially could make an announcement as to whether they're going to show the wife is arrested. Questioning has continued now for over 12 hours. Both the wife and the daughter being questioned in connection to this murder, which is expected to have taken place anywhere between 3:15 and 4:15 yesterday. After a heated argument, which soon turned physical, it is believed that he was stabbed multiple times using 2 knives. There was also a bottle, the broken glass bottle that was used. Apart from several things that were in the kitchen as well that was thrown at him is what I'm picking up from my sources. Apart from, these details, the police are trying to ascertain what led to the quarrel, and if there was any other person that was there. As of now, the police believe that there were 3 people in total in the house when the incident has happened. It is another officer who has informed the police, is what we are learning, based on which the police arrived at the scene of the crime and then began questioning. As of now, all details are being looked into. The cremation of the retired police officer who's been murdered is happening at about 3 this afternoon. At about 11, his body is going to be kept in a club nearby there for family and others to pay homage. The Home Minister, speaking about it a little while ago, has said that he was a good man, he was a good officer, was working with him when he was formerly a Home Minister back in the year 2015. Definitely a lot of detailing going into the questioning at this point in time. We really have to see what are the details that emerge after that.
As always, for joining us with the latest. Well, let's turn our attention now to Jammu and Kashmir, where heavy rainfall caused by cloudbursts led to flash floods and landslides in Ramban district early on Sunday, resulting in the deaths of a few people and widespread damage to houses, shops and roads. More than 100 people were rescued in the aftermath, but the Jammu-Srinagar highway remains blocked and also vehicular movement is affected. All the schools are shut in the Kashmir Valley. Meanwhile, the NDRF and SDRF teams are carrying out the restoration work. However, as you can imagine, due to the bad weather, the inclement forecast, restoration work was stalled just last night. Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, meanwhile, has requested the Centre for help and urged people to follow advisories as well. My colleague Nazir has been tracking the latest details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Nazir, in terms of the restoration work, has it resumed and what's the weather situation like in Ramban?
Well, weather here in Ramban is sunny today, so the restoration of this road is going on, but it may take a while. Authorities are hoping to restore it as soon as possible, but given the amount of damage which has been caused by the multiple landslides, cloudbursts on this road where actually big trucks are buried, so it taking time. But biggest priority is to reach out to those people who are stranded on the road. And here in this army, this picket in Ramban, you can see all these people. This is a group of tourists from Gujarat. They were on their way to Srinagar, so they are being served food by the army here in this particular camp. And in fact, they just finished. आपने खाना finish किया? लंच किया ना? लंच किया?
हाँ साहब, खाना पीना बहुत अच्छा किया। 3 दिन में फंसे हुए थे। बटालियन ने हमने ऐसे 123 नंबर की बटालियन है ने, अब हमने बहुत साथ सागर आता है और हमको इन्हें बचाया है। बिल्कुल। खाना पीना सब इसको दिया है। सुरक्षित जगह हमने लाया।
So here all these people had actually come, were asked by army to come here, and they organized langar here for all these people. आपने लंच किया, खाना खाया?
खाया, सबने खाया, सबने खाया। बहुत अच्छा बनाया था, बहुत अच्छा। सुबह में भी चाय नाश्ता पानी सब लेके हमारे वहाँ आए थे। बहुत अच्छा खाना मिल गया।
अच्छा अच्छा है।
अच्छा है।
तो कितने दिनों से 3 दिनों से फंसे आप?
हाँ, हम 3 दिनों से।
कहाँ श्रीनगर जा रहे हैं?
नहीं, श्रीनगर से वैष्णो देवी जा रहे थे।
श्रीनगर से ही आ रहे हैं आप?
हाँ, श्रीनगर से हम वैष्णो देवी जा रहे थे। हम सब घूम के आए और वैष्णो देवी जा रहे थे। हाँ,
और रास्ता बंद है,
बीच में ब्लॉक हो गया।
correct. So this is the situation, but here army organized, that is the requirement when civil administration, paramilitary force and army, they actually come together. In fact, yesterday Chief Minister Umar Abdullah rushed his deputy Chief Minister Surinder Chaudhary to this area to assess the situation, and here you can see these army jawans serving food to the stranded tourists here. And this group had come from Gujarat, they were in Srinagar, they had gone to Gulmarg, different places, but when they were on their way back and going to Mata Vaishno Devi for darshan, because of the road blockade, so they are here stranded for last 3 days, and here army is taking good care of them. Here at this army picket, it is 123 territorial army which is taking care of these stranded, these tourists here at this place. So that is the priority. In fact, civil administration is also saying they are serving food and giving shelter to those who have been, stranded here. But the biggest challenge is now to restore this road at least partially, because it has been damaged at multiple places. At one place I just saw, I was crossing that, where the approach road of a tunnel is completely damaged, so they are restoring that. At multiple places I saw landslides, they are being removed and then to restoring the road, but it may take some time if weather gods are more kind. Now it is sunny now, because for 3-4 days it was hailstorm, heavy rain, snowfall in the higher reaches, and here in this Ramban area, cloud burst. In fact, 3 people, including 2 siblings, lost their lives in that cloud burst. People are saying they suffered a great deal due to this weather, and many people lost their homes, shops. They were earning their living. Some hotels were also damaged. So there's a lot of damage, but the first priority for the administration and the security force has been to reach out to the stranded people. And there are thousands of trucks stranded on this road, which is like normal, despite the fact thousands of crores are being spent on this highway. It is not actually fixing the problem. Let me show if you see these mountains, these are young Himalayan mountains. It is a fragile ecology. When you go for this development, it has its own disadvantage, and then that's why many mountains I saw are actually came down crashing, and it caused massive damage to the road and infrastructure. Big trucks actually buried under the slush. That was the kind of slush that was coming down after this cloud burst and the landslides on this stretch, on this particular section of Ramban along Srinagar Jammu National Highway. This is the lifeline for the valley. This is the only road link that connects the valley with the rest of the country, and it is the biggest priority, and it is the only actually defense road for the army, for the troops, which actually use this road very, very frequently. And closure of it is not just huge inconvenience for the people, it actually shoots up also prices of essential supplies. Since the valley is a consumer place, most of the essential supplies from are coming from the rest of the country, right. And all the trucks, even with those perishable items, they are stuck here, or they lose that. So it is very important to restore this road as soon as possible. So the restoration work is going on, but the big thing is those who are stranded here, they are being taken good care of by the army here at this particular place, while civil administration is also reaching out to people in different points in Bramban area.
As always, Nazir, thank you so much for joining us with that ground report from Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban district. Well, let's turn our attention now to West Bengal, where the Supreme Court will be taking up petitions for a probe in the Murshidabad violence that claimed 3 lives. In fact, a PIL has been filed in the Supreme Court demanding a court-monitored investigation into the violence that erupted between the 11th and 12th of April. Violence during the protests against the controversial Waqf Amendment Act. There were reports of actually stone pelting, injuries to police personnel, and imposition of prohibitory orders as well. Shreyashi joins you with the latest.
Political bickering between the ruling Trinamool Congress and the opposition parties continue. The opposition still intensifying the political heat on Mamata Banerjee's administration over the breakdown of law and order during this Murshidabad violence. So far, the Calcutta High Court has already formed a committee to look into the restoration and rehabilitation of those whose homes were destroyed during these communal clashes. And if the Supreme Court does hear those petitions and passes an order, then the Calcutta High Court order will then be set aside. The demand for a judicial probe was also made before the Calcutta High Court, but the High Court thought it would be more feasible to keep someone from the National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission and the State Legal Services. So a 3-member committee has been formed to look into this part, and of course the West Bengal Police SIT continues to investigate the various criminal cases that have taken place during these communal clashes in Murshidabad.
Well, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Do stay tuned.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard.
All the parties should accept their verdict with all humility.
Why the opposition to it? Why taking big steps?
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time.
Hello and welcome to The Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav.
This is the news break and I'm Vasudha Venugopal. This is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil.
Left, right and centre, and good evening and welcome.
It's a prime time that's unmissable.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you.
Welcome back. Well, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha and Congress MP Rahul Gandhi, while addressing members of the Indian diaspora in US, in Boston to be specific, alleged that Election Commission is compromised, and he claimed that there is something very wrong with the system. Citing the example of the Maharashtra Assembly elections, the former Congress president said, more people voted in Maharashtra than the total number of people in Maharashtra, and this is a fact. The Election Commission gave us a figure in the evening around 5:30 p.m. and in 2 hours around 7:30 p.m., 65 lakh voters had voted, which is physically impossible. These are Rahul Gandhi's remarks as he embarked on a 2-day US tour. He has raked up the voter fraud charge in Boston. In fact, the BJP has now responded saying Rahul Gandhi is defaming India on foreign soil, something they have said before as well. And they have hit out at what they call is Rahul Gandhi's anti-India barb. Listen in to Rahul Gandhi's remarks at Brown University.
In simple terms, more people voted in the Maharashtra Assembly elections than there are adults in Maharashtra. This is the fact. And the Election Commission gave us a voting figure for 5:30 in the evening. And between 5:30 in the evening and 7:30 in the evening, when the polls were supposed to have closed, 65 lakh voters voted. Now, that is physically impossible to happen. It is very clear to us that the Election Commission is compromised. It's very clear that there is something very wrong with the system.
Well, as you've just heard, Rahul Gandhi, while addressing members of the Indian diaspora in Boston, alleged that the Election Commission is compromised, and he claimed there is something very wrong with the system. He cited the example of the Maharashtra Assembly elections, and that's when he made these comments, which have now raked up an issue with the BJP as well, and taunted them to respond by saying Rahul Gandhi is defaming India on foreign soil. Do note that Rahul Gandhi is in the United States on a 2-day tour, and this speech of his was delivered in Boston. In fact, for further clarity, we have with us over the phone line, representing the Congress, Dr. Pooja Tripathi. In a few moments from now, representing the BJP, we'll have with us Tuhin Sinha as well. Dr. Tripathi, thank you so much for making time for us as always. Rahul Gandhi has just alleged that the Election Commission is compromised. He cited voting anomalies in Maharashtra. But what specific evidence do you have to support this claim? And is there any immediate corrective action your party is demanding?
You know, we have not only today, Rahul Gandhi has been repeatedly raising the same issue. He has raised the same issue in the parliament session. And it's not about raising the issue. We have sought answers from Election Commission. We wanted a detailed list with the whole address of the voter that have been added. You know, this amount of numbers being added between just Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha elections, and Rahul Gandhi has obviously, you know, he has been on the record at the parliament everywhere. It's saying it's a matter of democratic accountability. And Election Commission, even after raising it in parliament, even after our group of leaders meeting them, they have not even replied to us. And that's what he was speaking about. It's not about defaming country. It's about having trust in the democratic process. It's about having trust in the electoral process. And when the leader of opposition, the biggest leader that an opposition bloc has been raising questions about it, Election Commission just can't get away with some two-liner shairi and saying that you have been defaming country. These are some serious questions that needs to be asked. You know, Congress party, the whole India Bloc Alliance to be precise, have presented a 16-page questionnaire to Election Commission with discrepancies, and it's just Maharashtra with just discrepancies at every level. And we have requested for them for, you know, the complete list with the names, address and everything, electoral roll, but they haven't provided us. So this goes on to show that, you know, the whole election machinery, when we talk about compromising the election machinery, it's not about where we win or where we lose. It's about, you know, the trust of the people. It's about the trust of opposition party. It's about the trust that are going through the whole process of, electioneering and campaigning and fighting for elections to have that say in the election process. And as a responsible leader of opposition, we have been raising the same question. And he went on to repeat the same thing that he had been telling in parliament.
Right, Dr. Tripathi, but Rahul Gandhi has said specifically that he's made this claim that 65 lakh voters were added in just 2 hours in Maharashtra. Can you elaborate on this claim for the benefit of our viewers? And has the party submitted any formal complaints or legal challenges regarding these numbers?
Yes, party has approached Election Commission. The memorandum has been given to Election Commission. The party has given a few pages document to Election Commission raising our questions, and we have asked, number of voters added between Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha elections equal to the number of voters that are presently, polling and voting in Himachal Pradesh. And this raises serious questions. And why Election Commission takes, so many hours to update the data. And there have been questions not just from the opposition parties, from People's for Democracy, it's from Citizens for Accountable Governance. Everybody is asking the same questions. Why does when voting stops at 5:30 or say 6, why does this goes on to this numbers get updated 2 or 3 days later? We have been asking pertinent questions, but Election Commission is just beating around the bush. We have given each explicit questions point-wise. We have demanded answers from Election Commission, but none. We haven't got any. So that's why, every platform that we'll have, we'll raise it. But it's not a matter of defaming country. It's a matter of trust in the whole electoral process.
All right. Dr. Tripathi, thank you so much for joining us with your comments. The Congress maintains that the Election Commission is beating around the bush and not giving any concrete answers to their queries. I was expecting the BJP, Tuhin Sinha, to join us regarding responding to the repeated accusations from the opposition. Meanwhile, critics are saying the government has created an atmosphere where independent institutions like the EC are being eroded, something the Congress has repeated time and again. We will, of course, keep tracking the finer developments in this story. For now, let's turn our attention to Canada for the moment. A Gurdwara in Vancouver was vandalized overnight with pro-Khalistan graffiti. The incident was being reported from the Khalsa Diwan Society, or the KDS Gurdwara, which is better known as the Ross Street Gurdwara. The Vancouver police have informed NDTV that they are investigating the incident that occurred on Saturday morning. Ma Siddiqui, meanwhile, has been tracking all the latest developments in Vancouver for us. Listen into her report.
The leaders of the Gurudwara say that this is being done by a small group of pro-Khalistan separatists who are indulging in intimidation tactics and also trying to create divisions within the Sikh community. And they say that this goes against not just the ethos of Sikhism, which calls upon inclusivity, but also the ethos of the Canadian society at large. And simultaneously, there was another incident that took place at the Lakshmi Narayan Temple in Surrey. Surrey is another city, but very close to Vancouver, about 50 minutes or 1 hour drive from Vancouver. And here again, hateful graffiti was seen painted at the Lakshmi Narayan Temple building wall. And the leaders of the temple there have said that it is not a coincidence that both these have taken place on the same day. They've also linked it to the advanced polling of the election. And they've said that this should be investigated together, considering that these great hateful graffiti were painted both on the Gurudwara on Ross Street in Vancouver and at the Surrey Lakshmi Narayan Temple. So they are linking both these incidents that took place. But yes, both of them have taken place either in Vancouver or close to Vancouver. The Vancouver Police Department, which is investigating the graffiti on the Gurudwara, have said so far they have not been able to apprehend any suspect. However, they are investigating the matter.
Well, meanwhile, the second docking of satellites on board the PSLV C-60 SPADEX mission was accomplished. In fact, Union Minister Jitendra Singh has announced that the second docking of satellites, adding that more experiments are planned in the next 2 weeks. In fact, this mission is for in-space docking and undocking, and the government has announced that further experiments will take place within the next 2 weeks. In fact, let's get you live visuals now. JD Vance has arrived at the Akshardham Temple. Do remember, US Vice President has touched down in India after 12 years. The significance of this visit is massive. By the way, he is here with his family, his wife and their 3 children. They landed in Delhi just a short while ago. They're heading straight to the Akshardham Temple. They are with the US government officials as well. A delegation has accompanied them. Mr. Vance was just given an official guard of honor at the airport. He is due to meet Prime Minister Modi this evening as well, and he's expected to be accompanied by members of his cabinet at a dinner at his residence this evening too. In terms of the expectations, officials are hoping that any substantive announcements would be made after the meeting with Prime Minister Modi, including the formal launch of the Trust Partnership, which is the Transforming Relationship Utilizing Strategic Technology Partnership, which is renamed from the earlier Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies with the previous Biden administration. On home ground, ahead of talks between Prime Minister Modi and JD Vance, the Congress has asked if the Prime Minister would convey India's concerns on the manner in which Indian citizens were being deported and also the complete destruction of the multilateral rules-based trading system, which is anchored in the World Trade Organization. JD Vance and his family, along with his Indian origin wife, their 3 children, are heading to the Akshardham Temple. Live visuals coming in of their first India tour since taking office. Do remember, while this has been classified as a semi-personal trip, it is about advancing the US-India partnership further as well. Deals, tariffs, bilateral talks, all this and more is on the agenda. We're also hearing murmurs regarding the US pushing some defense deals as far as New Delhi is concerned. Of course, we'll be keeping a close eye on all this and more. Fast-tracking the trade pact is also very high up on the agenda as JD Vance and his family touches down in India. Live visuals coming in at the moment as they head to the Akshardham Temple. This is Mr. Vance's first visit to India after taking over as the Vice President of the United States. Meanwhile, the Ministry of External Affairs has said in a statement that this visit will provide an opportunity for both sides to review the progress in bilateral relations and also the implementation of the outcomes of the India-US joint statement that was issued on the 13th of February when Prime Minister Modi had met his dear friend Donald Trump in the US. The MEA says the two sides will also exchange views on regional and global developments of mutual interest. But you must also note that New Delhi is not his only stop. After he meets with Prime Minister Modi this evening, JD Vance and his family will visit Jaipur. They will also visit Agra. In fact, on Tuesday, the US Vice President will visit the iconic Amer Palace. Later on Tuesday, he's expected to deliver a keynote address at the US-India Business Summit at the Rajasthan International Center. Remember that keynote address is scheduled for Rajasthan, not New Delhi. The summit is going to see participation from top Indian and American officials, as you can imagine, with Mr. Vance expected to talk about bilateral trade and investment between both our countries. So once he wraps up Jaipur, then he heads to Agra, and that's on Wednesday. He will be heading with his family for a visit to the Taj Mahal. And after about a couple of hours at the monument, he will return to Jaipur this same afternoon. By the way, in terms of his engagements, he's also scheduled to meet the Rajasthan Chief Minister Bhajan Lal Sharma on the 22nd of April. And then he returns home. He leaves for Washington on Thursday. But live visuals coming in as JD Vance and his family, who've just touched down in India a short while ago, head to the Akshardham Temple. Right, we're tracking the US Vice President's India touchdown very closely on NDTV. This remains our big focus. It's over to my colleague Gargi Rawat for the latest.
All right, thanks so much for that, Parma. And yes, we can see the convoy there with the US Vice President JD Vance. He arrived a short while ago and his first stop is the Akshardham Temple on the banks of the Yamuna. It's a very, very significant visit. In the evening, he will be holding bilateral talks with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It's a 4-day visit, which includes a trip to Agra as well as a trip to Jaipur. Well, let's go across to my colleague Gauri Dwivedi joins us for more. And Gauri, we're seeing that a convoy which has the Vice President JD Vance along with his wife Usha and their 3 children. And the first stop is the Akshardham Temple.
And that's quite symbolic, isn't it, Gargi? The fact that the Vice President has chosen Akshardham Temple as the first stop in his 4-day trip to India is very symbolic and indicative of the kind of messaging that the second family does want to give about this trip and also about India. And I think that's something that one needs to keep in mind, that he reached India about an hour and a half back. After touching down, he got the ceremonial welcome. There were senior ministers of Prime Minister Modi's cabinet who greeted and welcomed Vice President. And then after that, the first stop on the itinerary is the Akshardham Temple. And I think that is indicative and very symbolic of the kind of messaging that Americans want to give and the American administration want to give in terms of this visit, its importance, but also at the same time talking more about the cultural roots, the ethnic roots of Usha Vance. She's been very vocal about her identity, her ethnic identity in the US, and something that the Vice President has also mentioned on several occasions, whether it is the food, whether it is the customs, whether it is traditions. He's of Indians, of Hindus. He's embraced all of it and spoken about it. So to that extent, the temple visit as the first stop on the itinerary is quite important and of course is indicative of probably what lies ahead on this trip from a messaging point of view. We have the detailed itinerary that has been that we know in terms of his stops, but this messaging is important.
Right. Interesting. You touched upon that. We know he comes off a trip from Italy where he met the Pope. His wife Usha is a practicing Hindu. The family, when they arrived at the Palam airport, we saw the 3 children. At least the boys were in kurtas. So that was interesting to see. The daughter as well, I think, was perhaps wearing a little lehenga. So as you spoke about the cultural significance and the India Connect, Gauri, so India would be hoping to use this India Connect as, if we can leverage it during our talks, because this visit comes at such a crucial time during this global trade war, the tariff war between the US and China. At the same time, we can't over leverage it, at least not publicly, because that would also, have its own complications, isn't it?
But at the same time, Gargi, yes, but how much do you leverage it is also a point, right? Because Vice President Vance comes from a certain opinion that he's been very vocal about. He's an extension of President Trump's certain worldview that they've already, displayed in the Trump administration in the last 3 months or so. Their actions and policies are testament to how they feel that they want to drive the America First agenda of their administration. So yes, these cultural roots and these connections are important, and probably will be important when it comes to addressing some of those Indian American communities' concerns or the challenges pertaining to legal immigrants' visas issues or deportations or all of that has now suddenly become a major talking point because it's such a concern for them. But that pain point alone is probably where some of these soft power issues could become important. But beyond that, there are hard negotiations that lie ahead. Some of those may happen today. Some of them, of course, will continue further because, as I said, hard negotiations are unlikely to yield a result in a single meeting. Breakthroughs may happen, forward movement may happen, but a sudden, immediate pact announcement is unlikely. So to that extent, hard negotiations, whether it's on trade, technology, military purchases, or any of the other parameters, these soft power imaging and posturing will be relevant, but not so much for these negotiations, because let's not forget there is an America First vision with which Vice President Vance is coming, and Prime Minister Modi has also been led by India First sort of a messaging that they've been very clear about, that all negotiations should be kept keeping in mind India's primary concerns, at the same time primary benefits. So given those background, how much of these optics that we are seeing right now on TV will come in handy? Well, only time can tell.
Absolutely. So, Gauri, during this visit, what we're really going to see is an advancement of the India-US, the proposed trade pact. That's what we can look for, that, it should be further solidified and there should be some advancement in the talks as well as a boost of India-US ties. And what other thorny issues are there? You spoke about student visas being a big concern right now. What other thorny issues are there that one would hope will be, touched upon during this visit?
In fact, visas itself is now turning out to be quite a thorny issue, not just the student visa part of it, the H-1B as well. H-1B visa, Gargi, is not something that's just sprung up right now. It's been a recurring issue across several US administrations, and at the same time, previous Indian government and the present one has also tried to impress upon the fact that these country-wide caps don't work when you talk about the world's most populous country and compare it with the least populous ones. These country-wide caps make no sense there. So to that extent, those concerns will probably come up yet again. How much of them can actually be addressed today remains to be seen. But if there is a forward movement, that itself is a very important takeaway that we should be very mindful of, simply because, as I said, Vice President Vance is, when he speaks, his worldview is aligned with that of President Trump. So when he speaks, he's taking forth the agenda of President Trump. And if there is a forward movement there, then it's indicative of the fact that the Trump administration and New Delhi have been able to make progress on some of these thorny issues. Visa being one, as we pointed out, or legal immigration rather, that's one. Second, even on the trade aspect, there are several thorny issues on both sides, whether it is the agriculture, whether concerns related to Indian farming, how much of those will be addressed is something that remains to be seen, because there are valid fears amongst the Indian farmers that opening up the sector very suddenly could actually have significant impact.
All right, Gauri, sorry to interrupt you there. We will, of course, return to this significant visit of the US Vice President. For the moment, going across to the BJP press conference as the BJP mounts its attack on the Congress and the Gandhis.
आप एक बार सोरेन जी से पूछिए, क्या उन्होंने समझौता किया था इलेक्शन कमीशन से? प्रियंका वाड्रा उसी चुनाव में जो बाई इलेक्शन हुए थे, उसी समय, उसी कालखंड में जो बाई इलेक्शन हुए थे, उस बाई इलेक्शन में वो जीत के सदन में आई, पैलेस्टाइन का बैग टांग करके। आप बताइए, क्या प्रियंका वाड्रा ने रॉबर्ट वाड्रा की मध्यस्थता से इलेक्शन कमीशन के साथ कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज किया, तभी उसकी जीत हुई, या वो अपने मेहनत पर जीत कर आई? आप ये बताइए कि 240 सीट जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी को विगत लोकसभा 2024 के लोकसभा में जब हमें 240 सीट और आपको 99 सीट मिली, तो आपने पूरे देश में और सदन में भी डिंडोरा पीटा कि ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की हार है और ये कांग्रेस पार्टी की जीत है। तो वॉज द इलेक्शन कमीशन कॉम्प्रोमाइज देन? आपने ये जो जश्न मनाया था, क्या हम कॉम्प्रोमाइज थे? और ठीक उसी प्रकार महाराष्ट्र में लोकसभा में हमें 9 सीटें मिली और आपके गठबंधन को हमसे अधिक मिली थी। तो वॉज द इलेक्शन कमीशन कॉम्प्रोमाइज देन बाय यू? केवल इतना ही नहीं, आपने सामने बैठा करके सदन में अयोध्या सीट हम हार गए, इस प्रकार से आपने पूरा सेलिब्रेशन किया। क्या इसके पीछे आपका किसी प्रकार का कॉम्प्रोमाइज था इलेक्शन कमीशन के साथ? किस प्रकार से यह संभव हुआ? क्योंकि भारत में आज फ्री एंड फेयर इलेक्शन होता है, भारत में आज सजीव लोकतंत्र है, इसी कारण यह संभव हुआ। विदेश की भूमि में जाकर भारत पर इस प्रकार हमले करने वाला राहुल गांधी याद रखे कि वो 50,000 की बेल पर बाहर है, वो गुनहगार है, वो भ्रष्ट है, उसने चोरी की है, डकैती की है। नेशनल हेराल्ड का केस चोरी का केस नहीं है, डकैती का केस है। 5,000 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी का मात्र 50 लाख रुपए देकर और 440 करोड़ रुपए का इनकम टैक्स गबन करके उसे चोरी और भ्रष्टाचारी नहीं कहते हैं, वो डकैती होती है। मां बेटे ने डकैती की है और डकैती करने के बाद इनकी इतनी हिम्मत है कि विदेश की भूमि में जाकर आप हिंदुस्तान के लोकतंत्र के ऊपर उंगली उठाते हैं। राहुल गांधी, आपसे नहीं हो पाएगा हिंदुस्तान में राजनीति, तो जाकर के किसी और देश से चुनाव लड़िए, मगर जिस थाली में खाते हैं अगर उस थाली में आप छेद करेंगे तो आप देशद्रोही कहलाएंगे। यू आर अ ट्रेटर। राहुल गांधी ट्रेटर हैं, केवल इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि विदेश की भूमि में जाकर देश की संस्थाओं का अपमान करते हैं और देश के लोकतंत्र को हीन बताते हैं, वो इसलिए भी ट्रेटर हैं क्योंकि देश की संपत्ति का करोड़ों करोड़ रुपए नेशनल हेराल्ड के माध्यम से उन्होंने गबन किया है और केवल अपने सहूलियत के लिए, अपने आराम के लिए गबन किया है। और याद रखिए राहुल गांधी, आप और आपकी माताश्री बचने वाली नहीं है। ईडी के गुस्से को ईसी पर निकाल रहे हो, एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट के गुस्से को आप इलेक्शन कमीशन पर निकाल रहे हो। इससे कुछ नहीं होगा। 2 दिन आप पन्नों पे छपोगे, अखबारों में आओगे, मगर ईडी आपको छोड़ेगी नहीं, क्योंकि तथ्य के आधार पर एजेंसीज काम करते हैं और तथ्य ओपन एंड शट केस का है। यह जो नेशनल हेराल्ड का केस है, यह ओपन एंड शट केस है जिसमें मां बेटे ने लूट मचाई है और आपको इसमें छोड़ा नहीं जाएगा। प्रोसीड्स ऑफ क्राइम के साथ आप पकड़े जाएंगे और आप जेल के पीछे जाएंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। कोई प्रश्न हो तो अवश्य पूछे। देखिए, वो लीडर विथ नो पोजीशन है। आप कह रहे हैं लीडर ऑफ अपोजिशन है, मगर व्यवहार देख के तो लगता है लीडर विथ नो पोजीशन है। अपने पार्टी के अंदर भी पोजीशन नहीं है। आप पूछ लीजिए जाके कांग्रेस वालों से, वो खुद बता देंगे आपको, व्यक्तिगत रूप से बता देंगे राहुल गांधी क्या है। और आप पूछ लीजिए देश की जनता से, जनता तो वोट देकर बता रही है कि इज नो लीडर विथ अपोजिशन। जिसके पास काबिलियत नहीं है वो अनफिट है, politically unfit है। A politically unfit man always takes the crutches of allegations which are false to prove that he is a leader. जो politically unfit होता है वो हमेशा बैसाखी पकड़ता है गलत सहारों का और गलत एलिगेशंस का, ये प्रूव करने के लिए कि मैं सही हूं। और आज अमेरिका में हो या दूसरे देशों में जो राहुल गांधी कर रहे हैं वो उनकी नाकामी का ही एक खिसियापन है।
दीपक चौबे।
राहुल गांधी भी कह रहे हैं कि 5:30 बजे के बाद जो आंकड़ा है
The BJP there hitting out at Rahul Gandhi after his latest statements that were made during a trip to the US. He's in Boston, where he had questioned the Election Commission and claimed that the Election Commission in India was compromised, saying something was very, very wrong with the system. So the BJP, they're hitting out, questioning Rahul Gandhi over this statement made in a foreign country, also questioning him on, you know, the victory in Jharkhand or Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's victory in Wayanad, and how Rahul Gandhi was questioning the Election Commission, saying that this comes at a time when the ED case against Rahul Gandhi is underway, and the Enforcement Directorate has summoned them, that the ED case is currently on, and that it is the frustrations against the ED that is being taken out against the Election Commission. Let's go across to Sunil Prabhu now for more. And Sunil, this was something we were expecting, given Rahul Gandhi once again making those statements while on a foreign visit, where he spoke about the Election Commission being compromised. The BJP, they are hitting out.
That's right, Gargi. As you rightly pointed out, this was expected. The Congress also is doing nearly 40 and even more press conferences across the country today to send across the message that, you know, the Constitution, the political vendetta that is taking place. So the war of words between the BJP and the Congress continues. Rahul Gandhi, of course, as you rightly pointed out, making a frontal attack on the Election Commission once again. This is something that he has echoed not only across India, but also in Parliament on a consistent basis. The Election Commission has tried to explain its position a number of times, that they haven't done anything wrong and it is all open for scrutiny. There are many who are part of the entire process, but be that as it may, these war of words and these exchanges and the questioning of constitutional authorities, even though it's on foreign soil, is nothing new. And that's the reason why we've also seen the Election Commission now wanting to seed the Aadhaar cards with the electoral cards and to ensure that, you know, at the grassroots level, the BLOs, as well as various political parties, in terms of their agents, are sensitized and made aware of the very important role that they play in ensuring that there is no foul play at the booth level.
That's right, Sunil. Rahul Gandhi, they're hitting out, you know, over the Maharashtra elections, claiming that 65 lakh voters were added in 2 hours, that the voters or the voting was more than the population or those who came to the polling booths. However, this the BJP's attack against Rahul Gandhi comes at a time when the Congress, as you said, was planning, you know, these press conferences to hit out over the ED charge sheet in the National Herald case.
That's right. There are around at least 40 press conferences that are scheduled across the country, and that is the reason why you saw Mr. Sambit Patra do what he did in terms of a press conference. Each one is trying to make their political narrative stronger at this present juncture, and that's the reason for why we are seeing, you know, the BJP and the Congress exchange words at this present time.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us. We're also now joined by Congress spokesperson Sujata Paul there joining us. Sujata Paul, the BJP hitting out at Rahul Gandhi. Sambit Patra saying you are a traitor because of the statements Rahul Gandhi has made in Boston, where he hit out at the Election Commission and said something was very, very wrong. So once again on foreign soil, Rahul Gandhi there, you know, being critical of India, various of the Election Commission this time.
Gargi, I think the BJP needs to get past this foreign soil business, because what they do on foreign soil is reprehensible. But when you talk about the Election Commission, it is certainly in the dock, and the manner in which the vote percentage increases in very, very short durations towards the end of the voting is concerning, because it actually harms our democracy. And this is across the country that this model is being implemented in the last few years. This never happened earlier, even when the BJP had come. This kind of vote percentage increase towards the end of the voting never happened. And if there are questions asked of the Election Commission, it retaliates in a manner which is so unbecoming of it by reciting shares and poetry, which is not their work. Their work is to ensure that there is transparency in the system, and we will keep asking questions on the Election Commission. And this is necessary for us to have faith in our system, and that is why Rahul Gandhi is talking about it.
All right. So you're saying the Congress will continue to question these, the points that were raised by Rahul Gandhi when it comes to elections. The BJP there saying, Sambit Patra saying that Rahul Gandhi is taking out his frustrations against the Enforcement Directorate. We do know that charge sheet has been filed in the National Herald case against the Election Commission.
The fact is that if there are traitors, it is basically the BJP and the RSS combined. Look at the way that they are attacking the Supreme Court. Look at the way Nishikant Dubey, Dinesh Sharma, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, JP Nadda ji, who is no longer supposedly a BJP member but should be a bipartisan person. They are questioning the Supreme Court of India because they want to pressurize it. And the fact is that if there are systems which are wrong, we will question them. Whether it is the ED or the CBI, they can unleash whoever and whatever they want. It is the BJP which is frustrated and insecure because the 400 par ka nara and the Prime Minister wanting to become non-biological has been totally brought to ground by the people, that is the Janta Janardhan of this country.
All right, and this comes at a time when the Congress is planning, this carpet bombing in a sense of press conferences by Congress spokespeople over the Enforcement Directorate and National Herald. And now with this statement that Rahul Gandhi has made, the BJP there hitting out at the Congress party and at Rahul Gandhi. Thanks so much, Sujata Paul, for joining us there. With the latest, with the reaction really to the BJP. But let's now go back to the visit of the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, and his family and the delegation. The first stop is the Akshardham Temple in Delhi. Arrived just a short while ago. He received the ceremonial welcome on arriving at the Palam airport. And now the first stop is at the Akshardham Temple, and there you can see a short while ago when J.D. Vance there arriving in India along with his 3 children and the delegation as well. And they are going to be visiting the Akshardham Temple. This 4-day visit also includes a visit to Jaipur, where they will get, as one can imagine, a cultural extravaganza. And then, of course, Agra, where they will see the world-famous Taj Mahal. But before that, a lot is on the cards. There you can see the family. J.D. Vance along with his wife Usha Chilukuri there along with their 3 children, the boys in kurta pajamas. Remember, this is the Indian aspect of his family is something that J.D. Vance has always, we've seen him, his favorite Indian dishes, celebrating along with his extended family on the wife's side, various Indian festivals, and now visiting the Akshardham Temple. There's been a lot of excitement at the Akshardham Temple ahead of this visit by the Vice President and his wife. He's accompanied by a delegation, and later today he will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where talks are going to be focusing on the early finalization and advancement really on the proposed bilateral trade pact, that all-important India-US trade pact. India really hoping for advancement in those negotiations and talks, and also a boost in the India-US bilateral relations. So US Vice President J.D. Vance there in India visiting the Akshardham Temple along with his family. We will be tracking that very important visit. It's a 4-day visit by the US Vice President. It's after 12 years that we've had a US Vice President visiting India. Time for us to slip into a short break. More coming up on the other side.
Hello, Moto. the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
Welcome back. Some breaking news now coming in, and the Supreme Court's observations in the case involving West Bengal and the violence that took place in Murshidabad. The plea was moved in the Supreme Court seeking President's rule in West Bengal. This is after the recent violence that broke out in Murshidabad, where there was violence over the Vatz bill. Remember, there were protests and there was displacement of people and deaths as well. So the Supreme Court said we're already facing allegations. Justice B.R. Gavai says, you want us to issue writ to the President to impose this. As it is, we are facing allegations of encroaching into executive. That is, remember, touching upon a controversy of late of the Supreme Court and allegations made by, in fact, members of the BJP of overreach by the Supreme Court. So the Justice Gavai there, in this plea that has been brought before the top court of bringing President's rule, they're making a jibe or a remark about, as it is, we are facing allegations of encroaching into executive. So a plea moved in the Supreme Court seeking President's rule in West Bengal, given the recent violence that took place in Murshidabad. And this plea, remember, has been moved by a person, Advocate Jain, who said that the plea is listed and he's filing a prayer for imposition of President's rule. Let's go across to Nupur for more. And Nupur, so this plea for President's rule in West Bengal after the Murshidabad violence, but Justice Gavai using it as an opportunity, to talk about allegations that the Supreme Court is facing of encroaching into executive.
Yes, of course, it is in fact a big observation coming from the upcoming CJI Justice B.R. Gavai just days after it was accused by BJP leader Nishikant Dubey, and in fact there were statements made by the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar himself on judiciary allegedly encroaching upon executive's role or legislature's role. So now it is in fact a very big development that the Supreme Court Judge Justice B.R. Gavai, while hearing the mentioning of a case, has in fact observed
that already they are facing allegations that they are encroaching upon executive's domain and legislature's domain. This was in fact said in a while a plea was mentioned before the top court today seeking imposition of president rule and deployment of paramilitary forces, keeping in mind the recent violence in the state of West Bengal. This petition is already listed tomorrow. That was earlier filed by Advocate Vishnu Shankar Jain, where he had, on previous occasion when violence had took place in West Bengal, had filed this petition. Now he was praying to the top court to allow him to alter or add his 2 more intervention applications, where he wants to mention this current Murshidabad case also. So now the Supreme Court, while hearing his mentioning, he said that already how can they seek such a prayer while not going into the details? He just made a observation that how can you seek such a prayer from the top court to direct imposition of a president rule when we are already facing such allegations? So this is in fact, a word from the top court and especially from the upcoming CJI is quite indicative of judiciary's stand over these allegations that are being made against them over the past recent few judgments.
That's right, Nupur. And while Nishikant Dubey did make those remarks, it was a direct attack on the Chief Justice of India, where he, spoke about him being responsible for civil wars in the country. We did have, JP Nadda distancing the BJP from that, but clearly, given these remarks, these observations by Justice Gawai, they are, watching all this. And saying that, we are facing these allegations.
Yes, of course, it is in fact a very important development. And just before this, another petition was mentioned before the same bench, Justice B.R. Gawai's bench, where the advocate had in fact requested his petition to be heard, where he has sought a contempt action against Nishikant Dubey for making these very statements. To recall, there are already 3 letters that have been sent to the Attorney General to seek sanction for initiating contempt of court proceedings. And in fact, now a letter has also been submitted to the Supreme Court seeking contempt action, suo motu contempt action against the Vice President himself. However, there has been no remark from the judiciary as of now, but the top court, Justice B.R. Gawai, while hearing the mentioning of that plea seeking contempt action against Nishikant Dubey, said that they can approach the Attorney General and they can proceed from there. So it is in fact a very big development, with the judiciary and executive seems to be at some kind of a loggerheads here, and it will be interesting to see how things unfold in the future.
All right. Thanks so much, Nupur, for joining us with those details. While this case the hearing was regarding President's rule in West Bengal. What is more, stark or more, which is the key point that has emerged in this entire interaction, is Justice Gawai's remarks about how, as it is, the Supreme Court facing allegations of encroaching into executive. So that remark made while hearing this particular case involving West Bengal. All right, moving on to the other big news from Karnataka, from West Bengal, and more chilling details really emerging in the murder of ex-DGP that took place in Bengaluru. This is the former Karnataka Police Chief Om Prakash, who was found dead at his home in Bengaluru yesterday, and it now emerges that there was a domestic issue. There was a fight with his wife, that he was stabbed with 2 knives, and he was tied up, and that chili powder as well was used. Let's go across to Deepak for more on this. Before that, let's just listen into what the Home Minister of Karnataka, G. Parmeshwar, has to say on this extremely shocking murder.
Om Prakash has been murdered, they say by his own wife, but the investigation is on. Until and unless we get the report, the investigation report, we cannot conclude anything. The investigation is on. We are looking at various aspects. Once the report is with us, then we can say how the murder is being done and so on.
Well, let's go across to Deepak now for more. And Deepak, it's, really shocking, chilling details really emerging of this murder. According to sources, it was to do with a property dispute and a domestic fight that was going on. And then possibly, and we're still waiting, for more from the police, but the wife and daughter, involved in this murder of a former top cop.
Yes, as per the complaint given by the son, both the mother and the daughter have been named as suspects. What I'm learning from sources in the police is that the son has also informed the cops that the mother has been threatening to, kill the father for about a week. He has alleged that when he reached home, he found his father in a pool of blood. He has asked for the police to look into the role of both his mother and, sister as well. As of now, definitely some shocking details. Like I did mention, the FIR right now has been registered under sections of murder, assault and various other sections of the BNS. But the police now are looking into the role of the wife and also the daughter of the officer. Now, while we look at these details emerge, we should note that another information that I'm picking up is that before actually stabbing him, the 2 knives that they've also recovered, the police now, they've thrown several things that were available in the kitchen. This includes chili powder, some oil as well as what I've been told. They've used a glass bottle as well after breaking it to stab him further. He's got multiple injuries, in his neck and his head as well. And after which the wife is said to have called another police officer's, wife and then told her that she's in fact murdered him. This was communicated to, the woman's husband, who in turn informed the police, who arrived there at about 5:30. The murder is believed to have taken place anywhere between 3:30 and 4:30 is what I'm learning. A telephonic conversation with another police officer has taken place at about 3 o'clock where, the former DGP, now deceased DGP, spoke cordially to an inspector and, told him not to come home at this point in time because his wife was there. So it looked like there were some issues that they had for quite some time, but definitely not the end that anyone expected.
Right, this murder must have sent shockwaves, one can imagine, among the police, among the politicians as well, and, something to investigate. The wife and daughter were questioned for 12 hours, and have they been arrested? If you could, briefly just tell us about that.
Well, as of now, officially they have not been shown as arrested. Both remain in custody. Very soon, of course, they could officially show her as arrested. They do have 24 hours before they have to make that official as per procedure. So we are expecting that announcement to come in very soon. Meanwhile, the final rites of the officer is going to be conducted at about 3 p.m. this evening.
All right. Thanks so much, Deepak, for joining us there with the latest. We'll return to you for more updates. Moving on now to Jammu. And news now from Tamil Nadu, in fact, where the language row and the latest in that with the Deputy Chief Minister, Udayinidhi, speaking on the language row. He spoke about how Karunanidhi had spoken out against Hindi imposition and that Tamil Nadu's base is Tamil language. He said the centre intends to impose Hindi and that students must understand the truth. He also said that student revolution strengthened Tamil at the time when his grandfather Karunanidhi had spoken out against Hindi imposition. He also said NEET and NEP is a threat to our education. Well, let's go across to Sam Daniel for more on this. Sam, give us more details about, where this was spoken. And this is the latest development in this, ongoing row or feud between Tamil Nadu and the centre over the alleged imposition of Hindi.
Well, Gargi, the occasion was Udayinidhi Stalin, the Deputy Chief Minister, was inaugurating an auditorium on the campus of a government college at Nandanam in Chennai and reminding students that in the 60s, it was the anti-Hindi agitation largely spearheaded by students themselves that had stopped Hindi imposition and that has protected Tamil language till now. And now he says the threat for Tamil comes in several new forms, including the national education policy and the 3-language policy. He says the arguments put forward would be can appear very true, but students ought to understand and be wary of the threat the Hindi imposition could wreak on Tamil language. He also took a step forward and said programs like NEET, National Education Policy, and the three-language policy also are a threat to education. The DMK believes that the public exam-like system for children in class 5 and 8 under the National Education Policy could actually reduce pass percentage and increase student dropouts in that sense, forcing many to exit education. In that sense, the DMK looks at this as a threat for education itself and has urged students to be wary and so that no form of Hindi imposition would see through its success in Tamil Nadu, and then our enemies will never win. That's the larger picture Udinidhi Stalin is projecting. The central government and the BJP, of course, Gargi, have been arguing that the national education policy and the three-language formula is not Hindi imposition, but only an opportunity given to students to learn an additional Indian language besides promoting mother tongue learning. Gargi.
All right, thanks so much, Sam, for joining us. So that is the latest in the language row, and the Deputy Chief Minister there hitting out very strongly, speaking about his grandfather fighting against Hindi imposition and how the students had played a key role during that time in the 60s. With that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. Let's go across to where the Prime Minister is addressing civil servants.
कर रहे हैं, जो निर्णय ले रहे हैं, वो 1000 साल का भविष्य तय करने वाले हैं। हमारे शास्त्रों में कहा गया है, यथा ही एकेन चक्रेण नरथस्य गति ही भवेत्, एवं पुरुष कौर्ण विना दैवम न सिद्ध्यति। यानी जैसे एक चक्र से रथ नहीं चल सकता है, उसी प्रकार बिना मेहनत के सिर्फ भाग्य के भरोसे सफलता नहीं मिलती। विकसित भारत के हमारे लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति के लिए भी विकास रथ के हर चक्र को मिलकर चलना है। दृढ़ प्रतिज्ञ होकर हर दिन, हर क्षण इस लक्ष्य के लिए काम करना है। लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए जीना है, जिंदगी खपानी है। साथियों, आज हम पूरी दुनिया को तेज गति से बदलते हुए देख रहे हैं। अपने परिवार में भी आप देखते होंगे कि परिवार में अगर 10-15 साल का बच्चा है और जब उससे बात करते हैं तो आप फील करते हैं आप आउटडेटेड हैं। ये इसलिए होता है क्योंकि समय बहुत तेजी से बदल रहा है। हर 2-3 साल में गैजेट्स कैसे बदल रहे हैं, कुछ समझे सीखे उसके पहले नया आ जाता है। हमारे छोटे छोटे बच्चे इन तेज बदलावों के साथ बड़े हो रहे हैं। हमारी ब्यूरोक्रेसी, हमारा कामकाज, हमारी पॉलिसी मेकिंग भी पुराने ढर्रे पर नहीं चल सकती। इसलिए 2014 के बाद से देश में व्यवस्था परिवर्तन का एक बहुत बड़ा महायज्ञ शुरू हुआ है। हम इस तेज स्पीड के साथ खुद को तेजी से ढाल रहे हैं। आज भारत की एस्पिरेशनल सोसाइटी, भारत के युवा, भारत के किसान, भारत की महिलाएं, उनके सपनों की उड़ान आज जिस ऊंचाई पर है वो वाकई अभूतपूर्व है। इन अभूतपूर्व आकांक्षाओं की पूर्ति के लिए अभूतपूर्व गति भी आवश्यक है। आने वाले वर्षों में भारत कितने ही बड़े बड़े पड़ावों से गुजरेगा। एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी से जुड़े लक्ष्य, क्लीन एनर्जी से जुड़े लक्ष्य, स्पोर्ट्स से लेकर के स्पेस को लेकर, यानी ऐसे अनेक नए लक्ष्य हर सेक्टर में देश का परचम और नई ऊंचाइयों पर लहराना है।
Right, breaking news, an update in the sensational murder of the Karnataka former DGP, and now the murder weapon has been recovered. Remember this, there you can see those visuals of a knife. What the police were saying earlier, according to sources, was that 2 knives were used, a glass bottle was also used, that chili powder was also thrown on the ex-DGP Om Prakash, who was found dead in his home in Bengaluru yesterday. It's a sensational case. Very chilling details really have emerged of this murder, a shocking murder of a former top cop who was killed in his home, and the main suspects are his wife and daughter. According to what one has learned so far from sources is that he had fought with his wife and during the afternoon, and that she allegedly threw this chili powder, that he was also tied up, and then he was stabbed to death. 2 different knives were used, and now you can see one of those murder weapons has been recovered. That knife has been recovered. The 68-year-old was also attacked with a glass bottle. Now, what we have learned so far, and what our, my colleague Deepak has been telling us, is that after this murder took place, the wife then called up another officer's wife and spoke to her and told her about this murder, and that lady is the one who then informed the police who arrived here. The wife and daughter were questioned for around 12 hours by the police. They have been named as suspects. The son has named them as suspects, but they have not been arrested yet. But it is an extremely disturbing and sensational murder of a former top cop, a DGP of Karnataka, who was killed in his own home, allegedly by his wife, and the daughter was also there in the home when he was killed. According to reports, the 68-year-old was tied up and attacked with a chili powder, a glass bottle, and he had 2 different stab wounds. It was said that 2 different knives were used, and one of those knives, the murder weapon, has been recovered as well, as you can see there. So these are the details emerging in this case. The cremation is also going to take place later sometime today, is what we have been told. And this murder it came to light yesterday in the afternoon. It was after the retired officer's wife spoke to the wife of another cop after the murder took place and said that she had killed her husband, and then this entire matter came to light. Now, we can bring you more details in the FIR that has been filed in the murder. It's based on the complaint by the son, and he claims that the ex-cop's wife had threatened to kill him. In fact, that for a week she had been threatening to kill him. According to some reports, it was to do with a property dispute and some property perhaps that was signed over to a family member. Well, let's go across to Deepak for more. So Deepak, 2 developments in this entire matter. One is that the murder weapon has been recovered. We have a visual of that knife that was used in the murder of Om Prakash, and also more details of the FIR, if you can take us through them.
Yes, the FIR has been registered based on the complaint by the son of the deceased IPS officer. But right now the son has also made a very big claim that his mother has been threatening to kill his father for quite some time, is his claim. He also says that when he came home, he has found the father lying in a pool of blood. There were police officers as well there, and he has told the police that he suspects that his mother and his sister may have committed the crime, and based on that, of course, they've been taken in as suspects, and their questioning, of course, has gone on now for about 14 hours. Very soon there could be an arrest shown in the case, and it could be the mother, and right now the involvement of the daughter as well is being looked into. He was tied up. There were things that were thrown at him. There were 2 knives that were used to stab him. We've, of course, accessed that murder weapon as well. We've also accessed images which are from the scene of the crime, but they're, of course, quite ghastly in nature. We'll not be able to put it out for our viewers at this point in time, but definitely something that has sent really shivers down the spines of everyone who's heard of this story now in the last 24 hours nearly. But at this point in time, as we look at the developments that are unfolding at about 11:30 after the postmortem, the mortal remains of the retired cop is going to be brought for public viewing, and also for the family members to pay homage. At about 3 is when the final rites will be conducted. We're expecting the Karnataka Home Minister, several senior police officers as well to be a part of that, because he's been the DG and IGP in 2015. We've heard from the Home Minister himself mention that. But right now, the details of the investigations, of course, are horrifying to say the least, about how brutal this act was, this crime was, and the involvement of the family members as well has made it even more dreadful.
Absolutely, and this murder, as we were mentioning earlier, sent shockwaves in Karnataka among the police. One can imagine there's also to be the cremation later today.
Yes, the cremation is happening at about 3 p.m. We should also note that at about 11:30, like I mentioned, his mortal remains will be kept for family members and anyone from the public to pay their final respects. That's happening very close to his house as well. So a lot of developments on that front expected even as investigations continue, and very soon we're expecting the police to make an announcement about an official arrest.
All right, Deepak, thanks so much for joining us with those details, and we will return to you. But an extremely shocking case there, and very chilling details emerging so far. The son now saying in the FIR in his complaint that the mother, his own mother, had been threatening his father for the last week. And now, as we do know, they are the main suspects. The wife and daughter have been are in custody and are being questioned by the police. Well, let's shift tracks now and some sports news and news concerning the BCCI. The BCCI has announced annual contracts and re-entry for some star cricketers. Shreyas and Ishan have got redemption, while Iyer and Kishan are back in BCCI contracts. Shreyas, Ishan are in the B and C categories. So re-entry for some star cricketers there, as the BCCI has announced its annual contracts. And interestingly, you have a re-entry for Shreyas Iyer and Ishan. Both are back in the BCCI contracts. And if we look at more details, Shreyas and Ishan, Shreyas is in the B category, while Ishan is in the C category. So the BCCI, they're announcing its annual contracts for several of the cricketers and a return of some of this re-entry of some of the star cricketers to the fold, and with those annual contracts. And Shreyas and Ishan, some redemption there for these star cricketers. They're back in the BCCI contracts in the B and C categories. It's a re-entry really for the star cricketers in the BCCI annual contracts, much sought after annual contracts. Well, let's go across to Sejal now for more. And Sejal, give us more details and some redemption for Shreyas and Ishan.
Yes, that's right, Gargi. With Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan getting back in the BCCI annual contracts is something that we have all been looking forward to, with Shreyas Iyer being in a great form with all the domestic IPL trophies. With last year, he won an IPL trophy with KKR, and then he has also went on to win a few domestic trophies. And Ishan Kishan has also been on a Ishan Kishan has also been on a good form currently with SRH in the current IPL. Apart from that, there are other new faces like Varun Chakravarti, Harshit Rana, and other players who have backed the BCCI annual contract. Other than that, we also know that Virat Kohli, Jasprit Bumrah, Rohit Sharma and Mohammad Shami have been included in the grade A+ category as usual. They have been retained in that category. So it's a redemption arc for both Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan to be in the BCCI central contract in grade B and grade C respectively.
All right, thanks so much, Sejal, for joining us with all those details. A re-entry for star cricketers. With that, we'll slip into a short break, and news and updates continue on the other side. Do stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
In the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
the company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you.
A row over Rahul Gandhi's comments in the United States, where he's questioned the election commission. The BJP hits out, says Rahul is a traitor, defaming the poll body abroad. The Congress says the BJP has not right to cry defamation. US Vice President J.D. Vance is in India along with his family, and on the agenda, this visit comes amid the tariff war and US immigration tensions. The family, their first stop was the Akshardham Temple. Later today, there will be talks with Prime Minister Modi. The BCCI announces annual contracts and a re-entry for some star cricketers. Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan back in the BCCI contract. And with the global uncertainty over US tariffs, gold hits a record high. Markets also jump and the gold rate jumps 25%. Nifty reclaims 24,000 and the Sensex crosses the 79,000 mark. First up, let's get you the latest developments in the murder case of a former DGP of Karnataka, and NDTV has accessed the FIR in the entire matter, and the son has claimed that the wife had actually threatened to murder him, that she had threatened his life and had threatened to kill him. The son says he was not home that day, yesterday, when the murder took place, and that he suspects it's the mother and sister who were involved in the murder. The police have also released an image of the murder weapon, the knife that was used. Now, let's take you through what we know so far is that the DGP was tied up, that chili powder was thrown at him, that a glass bottle was also used. So very sinister and shocking details, really, that a former DGP to be killed in this manner. Om Prakash, a 68-year-old former DGP of Karnataka, killed in his own home, and the prime suspects are his own wife and daughter. And the complaint, the FIR, is based on allegations made by the son, who says the mother was suffering from depression and that she had even threatened to kill his own father. Let's go across to Deepak now, who's been tracking all these developments. And Deepak, really, you know, shocking to hear some of those details that have now emerged, and the son actually saying that his own mother had threatened to kill the father.
Yes, the details that are emerging about why the crime was committed, how the crime was committed, and by whom the crime was committed, all of them quite chilling in nature. We've, of course, accessed the image of the murder weapon. We've also accessed images from the scene of the crime. Quite gory, to say the least, and it's not easy for us to, of course, put it out for our viewers, because these are ghastly images. Because he was stabbed multiple times in the chest, in the neck, in the head as well. 2 different knives have been used. They've also used a glass bottle. They've sprinkled chili powder on his face. They've tried to tie him up. These are all the details that are emerging from the investigations, as the wife now continues to remain in police custody. The daughter of the, officer who's deceased also remains in custody. The son has alleged that both the mother and his sister were involved in the murder of his father. This is according to the FIR, based on which they have been taken in as suspects. Questioning is on. The Home Minister, of course, speaking earlier, has gone on to say that he was a very good man, a good officer, worked with him in 2015 when he was the DG-IGP of Karnataka, and then Mr. G. Parmeshwar was also the Home Minister back then during the first the tenure of Mr. Siddaramaiah. So he's a top police officer. They had internal issues, yes, but was it something that warranted a gruesome, brutal act like this is the question that's really come up. And right now, very soon, the police are expected to also show an arrest in the case. Within 24 hours, they need to, of course, do this after taking somebody into custody. They have, of course, taken the wife and the daughter for questioning into custody yesterday, but not yet shown officially as arrested. But more importantly, now at about 11:30, his mortal remains will be kept at a club here where the family will be able to pay their final respects. That's very close to where I'm standing. We'll be there in a minute or two to bring our viewers any update from there. And more importantly, at about 3 p.m., the final rites will be conducted. Right now, this incident, of course, has shocked the entire city, the police fraternity as well. And the police are hoping that they will be able to gather all the evidence that's required to nail whoever the accused in the cases.
Right. So, Deepak, still more information emerging, initial, sources pointing to some kind of a property dispute, but there's obviously some very serious domestic tension in this household that finally resulted in this crime. When the son says his mother threatened to kill his father, I don't suppose he actually thought she would follow through with it. And in this very, very gory manner, throwing chili powder, then stabbing him, tying him up, a bottle also used.
Well, absolutely not. And while, of course, there have been very serious statements like these that have probably come to the fore in the past, there have been some serious fights, but one would never assume that, one would take the extreme step, be so brutal, murder her own husband. This is not something that was expected by either the son or anybody else. It's also been told to me from some of the sources that she did make a phone call after murdering the husband, informed another person about this, who in turn reached out to the police. So it's some startling details, of course, that have been emerging, and quite shocking in nature, to say the least.
That's right. For viewers who are just joining in, this is this very shocking, sensational case in Bengaluru, where a top cop, former top cop, former DGP Om Prakash, murdered in his own home, and the prime suspect is his own wife and daughter who were involved in his murder. It seems, Deepak, that for quite some time there were domestic issues in that family, something that even one has been seeing reports, even within the police circles, it's been alluded to. The wife, after murdering her husband, actually calling up the wife of another police officer and saying that I've done it, I've referring to him as a monster. All these kind of details are now emerging of what was going on in that home, finally leading up to this murder of the former top cop.
Yes, quite ghastly in nature, isn't it? And, for the son to even mention in his FIR that there have been threats that, she had made to kill the father, it just indicates the kind of issues that they've had internally. And it's something that hasn't really died down for quite some time. In fact, a police officer who spoke to the deceased IPS officer now at about 3:10 yesterday. He recalls speaking to him and having a very pleasant conversation. He was very jovial is what he claims. He also further states that he wanted to meet him, but the IPS officer, former IPS officer went on to say that not right now because my wife is at home and you know how she gets when, people come home. And so it was another indicator that things were not all well. It was only moments after that he was murdered. Right now, the police, of course, questioning the wife and the daughter, and very soon officially will be shown as an arrest as well, is what we're learning.
All right, Deepak, thanks so much for joining us. With those details, we'll continue to track it and bring it to our viewers. A very, very ghastly murder indeed, and clearly some serious domestic issues in that family that finally led up to this and this brutal manner in which the former DGP was killed. All right, moving on to other news and news of the Supreme Court. Now today, the Supreme Court reacted to allegations of judicial overreach and controversial remarks by some BJP leaders. And it was Justice B.R. Gavai, who is going to be the next Chief Justice of the country, who when hearing a petition to bring President's rule to Bengal, made this very, very significant comment. He says the court is facing allegations of encroaching into executive domain, is what he said. So he says, we are facing these comments, these allegations. As it is, we are facing these allegations, and you want us to issue a writ of mandamus to impose President's rule. So what is really interesting is this comment that was made. It was an aside on this entire issue. Let's go across to Nupur for more. And Nupur, this really shows that the Supreme Court and the to-be Chief Justice of India closely following these allegations that have been made by the ruling party, in a sense members of the ruling party, though we do know that comment made by Nishikant Dubey against the Chief Justice of India, the BJP has distanced itself, but the Chief Justice, Justice Gavai making these comments is very, very significant.
Well, yes, of course it is. In fact, judiciary is well aware of, always they are well aware of what is going on around them. And in fact, this is one such example where today, in fact, this petition had in fact sought a direction from the top court. The petition is coming up for hearing tomorrow. It was mentioned today before the bench of Justice B.R. Gavai, and they had sought imposition, a direction to the center to impose President's rule in the state of West Bengal over the violence that has recently taken place. So the petition was filed previously or when similar cases of violence had taken place. Now they are saying that they want to bring up the Murshidabad violence case also and seek a President's rule and deployment of paramilitary forces in the state. However, the Justice B.R. Gavai, while hearing this mentioning, remarked that already we are facing these allegations of interference and overstepping, as you have rightly said, that we are facing this allegation of encroaching upon the executive's domain. And now you want us to pass this direction of imposing President's rule in a state. So this was in fact a slight remark from the upcoming Chief Justice of India. So it kind of shows the ongoing tussle that is going on between the judiciary and the legislative and the executive. As you know that it's not only Nishikant Dubey who has made this statement, even though the BJP has distanced itself. Previously, the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar was also seen making some remarks about the recent Supreme Court judgment concerning the Tamil Nadu governor's role in withholding assent to at least 12 bills. So here, in that case, also the vice president had also in fact made some remarks about the judgment, and now this has this thing as a kind of a tug of war between the legislature and judiciary, and it will be interesting to see how it unfolds going forward, as the Home Ministry has already intended that it might file a review petition against that Supreme Court judgment. So it will be crucial to see how things unfold as we go forward.
All right, Nupur, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. So a comment there from Justice Gawai coming after those recent remarks that were made by some members of the BJP, Nishikant Dubey. They're talking about judicial overreach. And Nupur... Right, Nupur, it was Nishikant Dubey who in fact, spoke about how can you give direction to appointing authorities, that Parliament makes law of the country, you will dictate to Parliament. So very, very strong remarks. And even though JP Nadda has, distanced the party, the fact that we do know Nishikant Dubey is someone who often makes these remarks as if for the party, almost testing water. So now it's interesting to have Justice Gawai making these observations, talking about allegations against the top court.
Yes, in fact, it is interesting. And already over the weekend, we have seen there are at least 3 letters written to the Attorney General seeking seeking sanction to initiate contempt of court proceedings against Nishikant Dubey. In fact, today morning, only another letter petition was filed seeking contempt of against the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar himself over these remarks. So it will be important how the Supreme Court, if at all AG grants the sanction, how the Supreme Court takes this forward.
All right, Nupur, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. So Justice Gawai saying that we are already facing allegations of overreach. Moving on to the latest, controversy involving the Congress and the BJP, and the BJP hitting out at Rahul Gandhi. Today, BJP held a press conference where they lashed out at the Congress MP and leader of opposition over his recent comments in the United States when speaking in Boston. Rahul Gandhi again reiterated his voter fraud charge, which was linked to the Maharashtra elections, questioning the Election Commission and alleging that the EC was compromised and saying something is very, very wrong, claiming that lakhs of people had been added to the voter list in just 2 hours' time. 65 lakh voters were added, also talking about how the actual voting number was more than the voters in Maharashtra elections. Now, the BJP today hit out over this, in fact, calling him a traitor for once again, hitting out and defaming the country on foreign soil, and also accused him of deflecting frustrations over the ED probes into the National Herald case onto the Election Commission.
In simple terms, more people voted in the Maharashtra Assembly elections than there are adults in Maharashtra. This is a fact. And the Election Commission gave us a voting figure for 5:30 in the evening. And between 5:30 in the evening and 7:30 in the evening, when the poll was supposed to have closed, 65 lakh voters voted. Now, that is physically impossible to happen. It is very clear to us that the Election Commission is compromised. It's very clear that there is something very wrong with the system.
आज वो विदेश की भूमि में जाकर भारत और भारत के महान लोकतंत्र को अपमानित कर रहे हैं, उसे बदनाम कर रहे हैं। राहुल जी अमेरिका में जाके इलेक्शन कमीशन को कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड बताते हैं। वो कहते हैं कि महाराष्ट्र के चुनाव में जिस प्रकार का मतदान हुआ वो एक तरह से फर्जीवाड़ा था। महाराष्ट्र में भारतीय जनता पार्टी को और उनके अलाइज को जीतना नहीं था, और कहीं ना कहीं इलेक्शन कमीशन ने हमारे साथ समझौता किया। मैं राहुल जी से पूछना चाहता हूं, राहुल जी, झारखंड भी तो उसी समय चुनाव हुआ था। क्या आपने इलेक्शन कमीशन के साथ झारखंड में समझौता किया था? क्या प्रियंका वाड्रा ने रॉबर्ट वाड्रा की मध्यस्थता से इलेक्शन कमीशन के साथ कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज किया, तभी उसकी जीत हुई? यू आर अ ट्रेटर, राहुल गांधी ट्रेटर हैं।
Well, we're now joined on the phone line by Charan Singh Sapra, Congress Working President, Mumbai. So, your reaction to what Sambit Patra said, the BJP hitting out at Rahul Gandhi for his remarks against the Election Commission, calling him a traitor?
See, BJP spokesperson, they have nothing much to talk. Whatever Rahul Gandhi has spoken in Boston, that is all reality. Whether he spoke about the Maharashtra elections, the discrepancies during the process of election commission, this against this we have also gone to the court. The issues are pending in the court also. So whatever Rahul Gandhi has spoken, that is a fact. And BJP, you know, they just are doing some lip service to please their masters, like Sambit Patra. If he wants to please the Prime Minister or his party president, he is using such words, and which we have also seen how the other member parliaments of BJP have been talking roughly like this.
All right, the BJP also alleging that this is this reaction or this targeting of the Election Commission is over Rahul Gandhi's frustrations against the Enforcement Directorate. We do know that charge sheet has been filed in the National Herald case.
See, as far as that issue is concerned, National Herald case, law will take its own course. And earlier also, whenever the agencies have called Rahul Gandhi ji or Srimati Sonia Gandhi, they have gone there and they have answered all the questions. I don't think so there is much left in National Herald case. These are mere, speculations, and these are vindictive ideas or vindictive things of BJP for which, they want to target Congress party, malign the image of Congress leaders, nothing beyond that. So the law will take its own course. And if they are talking about corruption, let me also remind them that BJP had taken Ajit Pawar into their fold. They had taken other corrupt leaders like Hemanta Biswa Sarma, whom BJP was only saying that he's a pani chor. They had labeled him as a pani chor. They made him the chief minister. Suvendu Adhikari was called Bhag Suvendu Bhag. Then he was made the leader of opposition in West Bengal. Likewise, Narayan Rane, likewise Chhagan Bhujbal, Hassan Mushrif in Maharashtra. Prime Minister 48 hours ago, he spoke against NCP and he said it is natural corrupt party, and he said Ajit Pawar has done 70,000 corruption. And then after 2 days, he made Ajit Pawar his alliance partner as well as the finance minister of Maharashtra. So this is the double face of BJP.
Also, it does seem, and this political analysts say how Rahul Gandhi is very fond of these, foreign trips, visiting these foreign universities, and time and again we've seen invariably he'll make some remarks that are picked up by the BJP, and then massive controversy takes place or is sparked because of his remarks abroad.
See, BJP doesn't want to talk about their failures. They don't want to talk about the economic situation. The comparison between dollar and the rupee, the way rupee is falling, they don't want to talk on the closing MSMEs, the declining manufacturing industries. They don't want to talk on, the richer are getting rich and the poorer are getting poor. They don't want to talk on the failures. They don't want to talk on Manipur. They don't want to talk on the rising unemployment. They don't want to tell people that 83% of the unemployment 83% youth is unemployed in India. They don't want to talk that more than 15 lakh people have left India. They have gone abroad for studies or for work over there. So these are the failures of government, and they just want to divert the minds of the people. That's all.
Well, we'll leave it there. Those are issues that the opposition, in fact, should be raising again and again. Thank you so much for speaking to us here at NDTV. Let's go across to Sunil Prabhu for more. And Sunil, Rahul Gandhi's comments there made in Boston, the BJP targeting him over this, also claiming that he's taking out his frustrations against the Enforcement Directorate on the Election Commission.
Well, Gargi, I think both the BJP and the Congress are having a war of words. You've seen what the BJP, one of its senior members of parliament and an important leader, Mr. Nishikant Dubey, had to say about a former election commissioner, calling him a Muslim commissioner. And he said he's echoing what Mr. B.L. Santosh has said. So be that as it may, I think the fact is, I'm recalling, the late Dr. Manmohan Singh as well as the late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, both former prime ministers, who refused to, speak against each other or against their political rivalries when they were abroad. I think that was, a sense of decorum that they had built. But here, in the case of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, or for that matter, Rahul Gandhi, the gloves are off and each one attacks each other. What Rahul Gandhi has stated is something that he has stated in Parliament all across India on a consistent basis ever since the Maharashtra elections. But it's definitely a cause of concern that, when you attack the Election Commission, be it the BJP calling its former members a Muslim commissioner, or for that matter here, Rahul Gandhi raising questions about the constitutional validity. There have been a number of explanations given by the Election Commission on this, on how that increased, what are the processes, what are the complaints. But definitely they have also done course correction in trying to seed the Aadhaar cards with the electoral cards to ensure that there's no duplicity. We'll wait and see how things play out in the next few months.
Right, Sunil, this also comes as the Congress is planning, a series of press conferences across the country taking on this latest charge sheet of the ED in the National Herald case.
That's right. They are doing across the country at least 40 to 45 press conferences, what they call the Save the Constitution, continuing to raise, issues that they believe are important. The political vendetta of the Enforcement Directorate case, which is now, ready for a charge sheet, and the court will take cognizance of it on the 25th. They're going through perusing through the case diaries as well as the information officer, as well as the ED counsel, and then take a final call on that matter. So definitely, there's a battle as well as the war of words will continue in the next few days. But definitely, at this present juncture, there is no elections. So why is this being done? What's the reason for this? We'll have to wait and watch and see how things play out.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. News now from Jammu, and the latest after the heavy rainfall took place there yesterday. It was a cloudburst that led to flash floods and landslides in the Ramban district. This resulted in the deaths of 5 people. There's been widespread damage to houses, shops and roads, and 100 people, more than 100 in fact, were rescued in the aftermath of this cloudburst. The highway, Jammu-Srinagar highway, a key link, remains blocked and vehicle movement has been disrupted. All schools are shut in the Kashmir Valley today. Well, let's go across to Nazir for more on what the situation is like right now, what authorities are doing. Over to you, Nazir.
Well, it is literally a road to nowhere. Srinagar-Jammu National Highway is closed for last 3 days, and it's expected that if all goes well, it may take another 2 days to restore this vital road link, which is the only road link that connects Kashmir Valley with the rest of the country. Here you can see this massive landslide which has literally come on this road is being cleared by these bulldozers. But it's a huge task, and for last 2 days actually these men and machineries are at work to clear these debris, because these same landslides have come at multiple places, particularly in this Ramban area. Because of the flash floods after cloudburst, 3 people have died, among them 2 siblings. And it has caused massive destruction, not just to road, but also to the houses, to shops. And then a number of vehicles have been damaged because of these landslides. People have suffered, and people are actually really going through hardships. Many people have to walk several kilometers. As you can see, these people here, they are going. आप कहाँ जा रहे हैं?
जम्मू जा रहे हैं।
जम्मू जा रहे हैं। कहाँ से आ रहे हैं?
ये उखड़ाल से।
तो नहीं जा, अभी तो पैदल ही चलना पड़ता है।
अभी पैदल ही चलना पड़ता है, गाड़ी नहीं है।
हाँ, गाड़ी है, रोड बंद है।
अभी रोड बंद है।
So let me show you the amount of this truck has been literally buried by the slush and the landslide here. This is the top of this truck here at Ramban. Same is the situation at multiple locations. So that is the kind of devastation these flash floods, landslides has caused in this area. This Srinagar-Jammu highway, which is passing through this Ramban, and this is the most eco-fragile zone. And because of what is believed that these landslides are happening because of unscientific excavation and construction techniques. So the haphazard construction or the development and also this four-laning of the highway appears to have contributed to disturbing this fragile ecosystem in this area. That's why you see massive landslides here, and as you say, this machine which was working very hard has also suffered some technical snag. क्या हुआ भैया गाड़ी machine को क्या हुआ? चलेगी? अच्छा, it is somewhere stuck here. It's not able to clear. It's saying it will. They are fixing the problem here. So it is a difficult time for the people. As I said, thousands of vehicles, mostly trucks carrying essential supplies to the valley, are stranded here. Many trucks are actually carrying perishable items. It is going to be a huge economic loss for them also. But the priority for the government is to restore this road link. Chief Minister Umar Abdullah today visited the area to see the restoration work and see how people can be helped, those who are stranded. Where we saw in an army camp group from tourists from Gujarat, they were being helped with food by the army, but many were not so lucky who are stranded at different places, because going from one place to other place is quite difficult in this particular area. As you can see, it is no trace of the road, the highway. This is supposed to be the highway, but the way the landslides had caused massive damage. It has literally disappeared, and it is literally a road to nowhere in Jammu and Kashmir. Yeah.
Right, a highway to nowhere. But Nazir, it's as you said, massive landslide. We can see those trucks just embedded in the debris there. So one can imagine, the power of it and how high this lands. It's going to take a long time to clear this. If you can show us that truck again, it's completely buried there in the sand.
Yeah, so before the truck, I'll show you what it has done to the power supplies. I'll show you what it has done to the power supplies. This is the receiving station, power receiving station in this area, Ramban, completely buried under this slush, rocks, mountains. So it has completely plunged this area into darkness. So it's not just the road, but because of these landslides, you can see this is the height. You can see these are the wires. You can just touch them. So this will tell you the height of this landslides, where you can see entire height of a pole. And then let me go back to the truck you were talking about, which is completely under these debris, under this landslide. Let me show you this side, what has happened on this road, highway, which government has spent actually, completely, thousands of crores have been spent on this road. This is the area where it is a least effect of this landslide. Yet you can see the height of this landslide on the truck, where truck is completely buried under this landslide. But in many other places, situation is much worse. Many shops have been buried, completely damaged. You can see this truck, this road completely washed away. At many places I saw even the bridge connecting the tunnels have also been damaged. Many places road has been washed away, or it has caved in. Number of vehicles has also been damaged. So it's a massive damage due to these landslides and due to weather conditions. But as I said, in an ecologically sensitive zone, if people don't follow scientific techniques in development and construction, this is something which was waiting to happen. And while, as I said, thousands of crores are being spent on this road, but when it comes to how, being, eco-sensitive in this area, carrying out construction on scientific basis, that is what is important, which many people have been flagging this issue. And it's the common people who actually suffer here. Not just they remain stranded on this road, poor truckers for days together, but in the valley, it is actually skyrocketing prices when essential supplies don't reach there for weeks on. So for last 3 days, road is closed. Trucks carrying with essential supplies, some perishable items, they are rotting on the road, and officials are saying it may take some time. Some are saying 2 or 3 days. Let's hope it is restored as soon as possible because weather has improved. It's a sunny day here in Ramban, but the damage is such a huge damage as you can see here. And the bad luck, this machine, this earth mover has suffered some technical snag, and they are saying they are going to fix it very soon. But it is one of the many landslide sites on this road in this Ramban stretch, and that is the reason you can see. And all these people actually, you can see these herdsmen, shepherds, they also use this road. And this is very important, this road, for the defense purposes because army convoys frequent on this road, so there is no movement of the convoys as well. So, and it also causes a lot of traffic congestion accumulated because thousands of trucks are already stranded on this road carrying supplies. So it is challenged at multiple levels. As I said, Chief Minister Umar Abdullah visited here Ramban today. Yesterday it was Deputy Chief Minister Surinder Chaudhary to review the situation, to review the restoration work, and importantly those who need some help from the government as security forces, army. I saw myself this morning at an army camp, army serving lunch food to the stranded tourists from Gujarat. And many people are here, they are saying they were stranded in those places where nobody could reach. And for last 3 days, this road remains closed. So Srinagar cut off from the rest of the country. And it's hoped that the restoration work is completed soon. But the bigger challenge is that unless this eco-sensitive zone is not dealt with scientifically, these things are bound to happen again and again.
That's right, Nazir. In fact, every other year we hear of these landslides in Ramban, and as you said, the good news is the weather is clear. Hopefully this debris can be cleared and this very crucial link to Srinagar be restored as soon as possible. Thank you so much, Nazir, for joining us with all those details. With that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates coming up on the other side, including on the US Vice President's visit to India.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard.
All the parties should accept their verdict with all humility.
Why the opposition to it? Why taking big steps?
More debates that.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
Welcome back. More grisly details emerging on the murder of former Karnataka Police Chief Om Prakash, who was found dead at his Bengaluru home yesterday. According to the FIR and complaint filed by his son, he says that his father had fought with his wife in the afternoon, that he had fought earlier as well. And now details have emerged that that afternoon there was a fight in the house, and during this fight the wife allegedly threw chili powder at him, tied him up and then stabbed him to death. There you can see a visual of the murder weapon that has been released by the police. The 68-year-old was also attacked with a glass bottle. The wife then called up another officer's wife and said that she had killed her husband, and that is when the police were informed, and both the wife and daughter were detained. They were questioned for about 12 hours. So the FIR that has been filed has been based on the complaint by the former DGP's son, who in fact says that his mother had threatened to kill his father a week ago, and he was not home yesterday when this murder took place, this grisly murder. Let's go across to Deepak for more. And Deepak, if you can take us through what the details of that FIR, where the son has also claimed that the mother was suffering from depression.
Well, yes, there are multiple claims that have been made by the son, including the fact that there was, in the past as well, and the mother had mentioned that she wants to finish off or kill, the retired police officer. But all of this now is subject to investigation. The police are looking into all of these aspects. The wife and the daughter both remain in custody at this point in time, being questioned now for over 14 hours. Very soon, the police are expected to, of course, give us an update if there is an official arrest in the case. I'm just going to show you some of these pictures here from HSR layout, very close to the residence of the officer, where of course he was found in a pool of blood. This is the MCHS Residence Welfare Club, where his mortal remains will be kept for family members, for people who've known him, associated with him, especially him being the top ranked police official in Karnataka in the past. He is been associated with multiple officers, bureaucrats, more importantly even politicians. We're expecting all of them today to come and pay their respects apart from family members. All arrangements of course have been made. Several family members are already here. Any moment now we could expect the mortal remains to be brought here from the St. John's Hospital, where the post-mortem was completed just a little while earlier. Senior police officers and retired police officers have already made their way here. The Deputy Commissioner of the Southeast Division is here, the IGP here as well. Mr. Bhaskar Rao, former Commissioner of Bengaluru, just made his way here a few minutes ago. So we could expect more bureaucrats, both serving and retired officers, to make their way. But definitely, like you mentioned, coming back to the crime in itself, quite gruesome in nature, and some of the startling details include the attempt at trying to kill him in the past. Not just that, yesterday when the quarrel broke out, initially it was verbal, then turned physical. There was chili powder allegedly thrown at him. There was other things that were also hurled at him. Then 2 knives were used to stab him multiple times in the neck and in the head as well. Then they've also gone ahead and tried to tie him up and used a glass bottle to assault him further. He was then lying in a pool of blood when she's believed to have called another police officer's wife and informed her that she's in fact murdered him. That is when this particular person has informed her husband, who has then informed the police, who reached their residence only to find out that he's dead. The son of course suspects that his mother and his sister could be behind the crime. Based on that, of course, the FIR has been registered. The two have been named as suspects, who continue to be grilled at this point.
That's right, Deepak. Also, there's, according to initial reports, and of course, this is all a matter of investigation, more details will emerge, but it also suggests that there's some property dispute that was, going on in this household, clearly a very troubled household, where, the wife, if she was threatening to kill her husband and then eventually following through with it. But yes, it seems there was some sort of altercations or some sort of friction over a property issue.
Well, there were domestic issues, whether it was property, whether they were personal in nature, whether it was regarding, the relationship. That is something that's unknown. But as we speak here, we can see the ambulance with the mortal remains of the deceased officer has just been brought here to the place where it will be kept for a public viewing. And and as we speak, of course, right now you can see several police officers as well who are here, who are helping the family members. And very soon, after paying respects here at about 3 p.m., we're expecting the final rites, of course, to be conducted. And while we look at these developments that are taking place, once again, a gruesome crime really coming to the fore. As at this point in time, the family members, of course, quite shocked, quite startled with the developments that have taken place. And right now, we'll really have to see whether the police will actually allow the wife or the daughter to even take part in the final rites, and how that process will be followed. And if they're officially shown as arrest in the next couple of hours, that as well will require some serious formalities too. So a lot expected through the course of the day in terms of how the investigation will proceed, and more importantly, as the final rites now gets underway, how will the daughter and the mother be made a part of this, and right now, as the police look into more details as to what was the exact reason behind the crime, like you mentioned, whether it was an internal domestic issue, property issue, these are details that will emerge through the course of the day.
All right, thanks so much, Deepak, for joining us with all those details. A really grisly murder, a shocking murder of a former top cop of Karnataka, in which his own wife is one of the prime suspects. All right, let's now get you the latest on US Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to India. He arrived this morning along with his wife Usha and their 3 children, Ewan, Vivek and Mirabel. And you can see the all 3 children, in fact, in Indian clothes there. The boys wearing kurta pajama and the daughter in a lehenga. And the first visit was the Akshardham Temple. Now, at the airport, they were received by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, and a ceremonial guard of honor was also was done for the Vice President, who is here for 4 days. It's a 4-day visit, and today evening he will be meeting with Prime Minister Modi. This is the visit by a US Vice President in 12 years to India. It's after 12 years that we've had a US Vice President visiting. So later today, he will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where the talks are going to focus on an early finalization of the proposed bilateral trade pact. That is something everyone will be looking to, what the advancements will be in that. Also, ways to bolster the India-US ties, and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar are expected to join these discussions. NDTV's Gauri Dwivedi sent us this report on J.D. Vance's visit.
The Vice President has chosen Akshardham Temple as the first stop in his 4-day trip to India. Is very symbolic and indicative of the kind of messaging that the second family does want to give about this trip and also about India. And I think that's something that one needs to keep in mind, that he reached India about an hour and a half back. After touching down, he got the ceremonial welcome. There were senior ministers of Prime Minister Modi's cabinet who greeted and welcomed Vice President. And then after that, the first stop on the itinerary is the Akshardham Temple. And I think that is indicative and very symbolic of the kind of messaging that Americans want to give and the American administration want to give in terms of this visit, its importance, but also at the same time talking more about the cultural roots, the ethnic roots of Usha Vance. She's been very vocal about her identity, her ethnic identity in the US, and something that the Vice President has also mentioned on several occasions, whether it is the food, whether it is the customs, whether it is traditions. He's of Indians, of Hindus. He's embraced all of it and spoken about it. So to that extent, the temple visit as the first stop on the itinerary is quite important, and of course is indicative of probably what lies ahead on this trip from a messaging point of view. We have the detailed itinerary that has been that we know in terms of his stops, but this messaging is important.
All right, it's a 4-day visit by the US Vice President, and also on the agenda after talks today evening with Prime Minister Modi is a visit to the Pink City of Jaipur. So in fact, the family will be doing the Golden Triangle of Delhi, Jaipur and Agra. Later, they will be visiting the Taj Mahal. NDTV's Harsha sent us this report from the Amer Fort, where J.D. Vance and his family will be visiting.
The pink city of Jaipur is prepping for the Vice President's visit here. And of course, the first place that they will be visiting will be this beautiful 12th century fort, which is the Amer Fort. Now, there's going to be a very special welcome that's been planned for them. These are nagaras or traditional drums behind me, and they are not played very often. But whenever they are played, it's a solemn occasion, it's a ceremonial welcome. So nagaras will be played, and they have a very deep resonance, a very, very deep drum beat that actually echoes right across the mountains. You can see how beautiful the Amer Fort is. It's set among the Aravali range. That right in front is the Ganesh pole. That's the main entrance to the fort. And there is, of course, the other entrance, which is called the Chand pole. And here, right here, is the Jaleb Chowk. Now, the Vice President and his family will be greeted by the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister. There will be a slew of folk performances going on here. After being welcomed here, the Vice President, his wife, Usha Vance, and the 3 children will go into the Amer Mahal. There will be a red carpet put out for them. And they will go and see, as you can see from here, the very beautiful entrance to the Mahal, and then there is the Diwan-e-Aam, the Diwan-e-Khas. There is the beautiful Sheesh Mahal inside the Amer Fort, which has more than 1,000 mirrors, where the famous film Mughal-e-Azam was shot. So as they go from one courtyard into the other, from one mahal into the other, there will be these, instrumental performances. So a grand welcome being planned for Vice President Vance here in Jaipur. And of course, it's this beautiful historic 12th century Amer Fort that will be first on the agenda for the Vice President and his family.
All right, so look there at the Amer Fort. The Vice President will be meeting Prime Minister Modi later today evening, and tomorrow Prime Minister is set to visit Saudi Arabia. The visit is between 22nd and 23rd and is at the invitation of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This will be his first visit to Saudi Arabia in his 3rd term, and the trip is expected to boost the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council, as well as expand ties in trade, defense, energy, and technology. All right, let's take a look now at the stock market. And in fact, gold prices have hit a record high with the global rate jumping 25%, and markets too are surging over 1%. Nifty reclaiming the 24,000 mark, Sensex crossing 79,000. Let's go across to Sakshi now for more. And Sakshi, gold also surging and the stock markets also surging. Do explain it to us.
Absolutely. Rare occasion really when we see the precious metal and gold prices surge as well as equity markets surge. So why exactly is this happening? So we've seen gold prices hit a record high both globally and in India. We've seen gold prices cross that $3,380 an ounce mark. Globally, we have seen the MCX gold prices also jump 25% year to date. So why really is this happening? Well, this is happening, experts believe, due to the US-China trade war concerns mounting as well as the Russia-Ukraine conflict concerns mounting. So remember, gold prices on uncertainty, on safe haven demand is when we see investors really flock to gold, and therefore we are seeing a rise in these prices. Now, what's happening with India's equity markets? Both the benchmark indices, Nifty and Sensex, surging over 1%. We've seen the Nifty reclaiming that 24,000 mark, the Sensex crossing 79,000, and of course we've seen banking stocks really rally with the Nifty Bank hitting a record high. So why are India's stock markets surging? Well, there are 2 key reasons experts believe. One, of course, that banking results have come in better than expected, and therefore we've seen the Nifty Bank hit a record high. But the more important and interesting one is the fact that, look, there is, of course, a renewed optimism on the US-India trade deal, and therefore we are seeing investors really be optimistic, and we are seeing this rally across the board from broader markets to, of course, all sectoral indices inching higher over this optimism over the US-India trade deal.
All right, Sakshi, thanks so much for joining us with those details. And from the stock markets now to some sports news, and the BCCI contracts have been announced. These are the annual contracts, and there has been a re-entry for some of our star cricketers with Shreyas and Ishan both getting redemption and have got BCCI contracts. Let's go across to Sejal for more. Sejal, do give us more details regarding this, and it's after a while that Iyer and Kishan are back in the BCCI contracts, with Shreyas Iyer getting a B category contract and Ishan getting in the C category. All right, so we'll be going across to Sejal for more on this, but these are the annual retainerships that have been announced now by the BCCI, and you have a return of some of the star cricketers. Sejal, so Iyer and Kishan back with the BCCI contracts.
Yes, that's right. With the BCCI announcing its central contracts this afternoon, we have a key impact that there is, we can see, is Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan returning to the central contract list. Remember, last year they were not a part of the central contracts because they were not taking part in the domestic championships. So BCCI had given a stern warning to all the players to take part in the matches. However, Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan did not take part, but after being dropped from the central contract, they took back. They went to the domestic matches. They played it. And talking about Shreyas Iyer, he has been on a roll. He has won so many domestic championships, including Dilip Trophy and others. And he was also one of the highest run getters in the Champions Trophy, which India won earlier this year. Kishan is also looking in a great form in the current IPL season, and he has also scored his maiden century for Sunrisers Hyderabad. So these two players have got their central contracts. Shreyas Iyer has been given the grade B contract, and Ishan Kishan has been given grade C contract. Other than them, key players like Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Ravindra Jadeja have been in the grade A+ category. And this despite they are not playing the T20I format currently. Other than that, Jasprit Bumrah is also in the A+ category. Wicketkeeper Rishabh Pant is in grade A category, and other players like Abhishek Sharma, Varun Chakravarti have been handed their maiden BCCI contracts, and the team is looking great considering all the members of the team. So hoping to get to see more of the matches in the coming time.
All right, Sejal, thanks so much for joining us with those details. And now some news from Chennai, and a significant initiative aimed at providing a hassle-free travel experience for passengers. Southern Railways has introduced the first air-conditioned train service in Chennai. It's an electric, called an electric multiple unit EMU. This is on the very key Chennai Beach Chengalpattu section. So significant initiative there for commuters to make it easy for them to take this service and visit the beach as well. So some respite from the heat as well with this air-conditioned service. And that's it from me for the moment. News and updates continue right here on NDTV.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise.
FIR details access in Karnataka former DGP murder case. FIR says ex-corpse wife threatened to kill him. Police release photo of murder weapon. Top court reacts to judicial overreach allegations. Supreme Court says we are already facing allegations of encroaching into the executive. Huge controversy over Rahul Gandhi's comments in the US. BJP says Rahul Gandhi is a traitor and has been defaming the poll body abroad. Congress says BJP has no right to cry defamation.
It is literally a road to nowhere. Srinagar-Jammu National Highway is closed for last 3 days.
3 people have died and homes and shops destroyed in Jammu Kashmir flash flood. NDTV ground report from Ramban. And US Vice President J.D. Vance is in India. The visit comes amid tariff and US immigration tensions between the two sides. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. My name is Kadi Behel. We are starting this edition with the top focus. In connection with the Bengal violence case, the top court hearing has begun. We understand the police have been filed in the court asking for court-monitored probe in the case. The petitioners have referred to multiple incidents that have taken place earlier, and we understand now this two-judge bench is hearing the pleas that have been filed in the court in connection with the Murshidabad violence that had erupted a few days back. Well, the top court hearing has begun, and we will try and get more details about that in just a bit as to what are the arguments that are being made in the court with regard to the pleas that have been filed in the court asking for a court-monitored probe in the case. Well, we understand the Supreme Court has also allowed the petitioners to withdraw pleas, and also the petitioners who want to take back their petitions and file fresh pleas have been allowed by the Supreme Court. However, we'll try and get more details about that in just a bit. Well, we understand big political controversy also has erupted. A face-off between the BJP and the TMC also erupted over Murshidabad earlier, with both sides blaming each other. Now we understand pleas have been filed in the court asking for a probe into the Murshidabad violence by a court-monitored panel. This is what we are learning. However, we'll try and get more details about that in just a bit. Well, remember the NCW team had also visited Murshidabad violence victims a few days back, and they had also then urged the Mamata Banerjee government to act immediately. Well, the NCW team had said that the suffering that these people had been going through, it was inhuman suffering. This is what the court, well, the NCW had said, and we understand now the matter is in the court. The Supreme Court has also now allowed petitioners to withdraw their pleas, and this comes even as the court is hearing petitions that have been filed asking for a court-monitored investigation into the matter. Well, the NCW team that had visited earlier had assured the victims also that their demands will be put before the government, and we understand the BJP team also wanted to go to Murshidabad. However, the TMC government in the state has been saying that once the situation comes back to normal, then only anybody should visit the violence-torn areas. Well, my colleague Shreyasi is also now joining us on the broadcast here. She is getting us more on that. Shreyasi, what more is being learned? We understand the court is hearing these petitions asking for a court-monitored probe in the Murshidabad violence.
Well, if we can draw a parallel to what took place in the Calcutta High Court, because the main petitions are being heard by the Calcutta High Court. 5 petitions were placed before the division bench here in the city of Kolkata. But most importantly in that as well, there was NIA probe that was requested for. There was also a court-monitored probe, an ex-judge monitoring the investigation that is being carried out by the West Bengal police. But the Calcutta High Court had left that upon the centre to decide whether an NIA investigation is required or not. And as far as the court-monitored probe was, raised, the justices of the Calcutta High Court said that they want to form a committee which includes National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission and the State Legal Services to monitor the restoration and rehabilitation of those who have been displaced by these communal violence that took place in Murshidabad. Now, why is it significant? Because it is already being heard before the Calcutta High Court. And now that the Supreme Court is hearing, if they do entertain the plea and pass an order, then the Calcutta High Court order becomes defunct and the Supreme Court becomes the apex court to hear the entire matter of Murshidabad violence. To let the viewers know, the leader of the opposition and BJP MLA, Shubhendu Adhikari, was the one who moved the first petition before the Calcutta High Court seeking central forces.
Right.
What is the situation in Murshidabad right now? Internet has been restored. 3 SITs have been formed to look into the allegations of vandalism, murder and crime that has taken place during those communal clashes. And of course, normalcy is slowly learning, as the state has submitted an affidavit before the Calcutta High Court. The entire matter is under the Calcutta High Court, but now that the Supreme Court is hearing it, the petitioners have, of course, seeking a court-monitored probe in this entire matter. We'll have to wait and see what the bench decides, and thereafter the state government will be taking the necessary steps.
Also, you've been saying that normalcy is slowly now returning to Murshidabad after violence had erupted in the area a few days back. 4 arrests have already been made. Any information that is coming out after the investigation into the matter? There was, as the cops had also said, that there was a hand of locals in the entire incident that unfolded that very day, in the violence that erupted that very day, after Mamata Banerjee, of course, had been blaming the BJP and the BSF, calling it a nexus between the two. And we understand now 4 arrests have already been made. What more is being learned through the investigation now?
Well, as far as the vandalism and arson is concerned, the communal clashes is concerned, over 300 have been arrested by the West Bengal police. And the main crime of the father and son being killed in their homes on the morning of 12th of April, in that case, 4 arrests have been made. The 4th accused was arrested yesterday from Uttar Dinajpur district in West Bengal. But more significantly, all the 4 arrests that have been made are from, the local, amongst the locals of that area where the communal clashes took place in Jangipur police district. So right now no arrests have been made outside the state or outside the country, because there have been instances that hint at Bangladesh's link to these violences. But so far as the police investigation is concerned, it's only the locals who have been nabbed by the police so far in the ongoing probe.
Okay, and you've also been telling us that authorities are, of course, keeping an eye on the situation there on the ground, with central forces also present and state police also keeping a check. But, well, schools have opened as well. That is what we are learning. Shops have also been allowed to open.
Well, the state government before the Calcutta High Court has submitted that at least 40% of the shops have reopened. The government offices are fully functional. As far as the schools are concerned, they have started functioning again. But of course, keeping in mind that there is a heat wave alert in West Bengal as well, they're going to be closing for the summer vacations. But of course, higher secondary examinations are upcoming, so the district administration will be focusing on that. As far as the shelter camps are concerned, the ones in Malda, where the locals had crossed the river and taken shelter in the neighboring district, that has been closed for now. Everyone has returned to Murshidabad. The houses that have faced maximum damage, those are being repaired. And of course, the state administration keeping a close watch on the ground situation. Central Force continues to keep guard in Murshidabad.
All right. Thank you so much, Shreyasi, for getting us all those details there. We also have my colleague Nupur Dogra joining us on the broadcast. She is getting us more from the court also here. Nupur, what more details do we have? The court is hearing these petitions, we understand?
Yes, the Supreme Court was in fact scheduled to hear 2 petitions that were filed raising the issue of Murshidabad violence in the top court. The petitions had in fact sought an SIT probe, a court-monitored probe, and a judicial commission to oversee the entire process. They had also sought a status report from the state of West Bengal. But while the petitioners appearing today before the top court, one of the lawyer, that is Advocate Vishal Tiwari, he said that he wants to withdraw his petitions in the wake of the developments that have occurred over the past few weeks, which includes the statements made against the CGI. He wants to amend his petition. So the Supreme Court allowed him to withdraw his petition and make amendments for fresh hearing. Now the second lawyer who was in fact appearing was in fact reprimanded by the top court, and both the lawyers were in fact warned by the top court to not make offensive averments in their petitions. The petitions the top court found were poorly drafted, and the top court said that if you have to file petition, please do file petitions with proper research and without impleading any parties. How can you make allegations against officials? So both the petitioners were today in fact who were in fact also the lawyers in the case were told to freshly amend their petitions and come again. But tomorrow there is one petition that is in fact today was mentioned before the